Since this is a public hearing,
A lot of opposition there, I can see.
That's because it's already down as far as I'm concerned.
Jim's here.
Yeah.
Is there anyone from the public?
I approve.
Comments from the council before we go any farther?
My question has nothing to do with the landscaping, because that goose is correct. The plan check deposit for plans other than homes, are we talking like somebody comes in and they want to build a 16 by 16 shed, we're going to charge $100 to check the plans? Is that what that means?
It's been $50, but it costs more than that, so we just wanted to cost a little bit.
We'll be in charge of doing that.
The amount that we're charged, does it vary based on the size of the structure, or is it just an hourly rate or something like that?
Well, it depends on what it is, because it will go to shade for the setbacks, and then it goes to AJ, and so depending on what it is it a percentage raise? So they vary.
Yeah, well, there's hourly to do that part of it,
Yeah.
and then it goes into a percentage once the building.
Is there a way to charge what it actually costs? Because if I go and I build a small shed, my plan check fee should be the same as the guy that's building a garage the size of ties.
Well, it gets
Does that make
applied to it gets applied to the permit now.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right,
So
so
it's
that was
taken
my
back.
biggest concern, is we're gonna have some people subsidizing as long as we're not.
And it also deals with, we get some that go through all the hoops and then they decide not to do it, and we still have the expense, and the $50 just was not covering it.
Okay. Gives them some skin in the game.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other discussion, questions? We probably could reschedule some of our public hearings quickly for 7 minutes. All right. There should be someone here coming at 6:15. That would begin our work session, so we'd like them to go first just to get that out of the way, so that we can also have plenty of time to have our well discussion and the legal taxation discussion. And just do the stuff. We can do the stuff on that, it's technically, we got a total public hearing and all that, right? We have to commit that. Okay, if there is no other public discussion, we will close our public hearing. And we will start our work session just a little bit early. I think we'll be okay with that. And you got here just in time.
Never give myself enough time to get down here.
What kinds of information do you need? Do you need the projector? Do you need anything else?
Has everyone had a chance to review those two different layouts that I think Melanie submitted to everybody?
Okay. Give you the floor.
Fantastic. You want me to come up?
From there, wherever you would like. As long as we can hear you, that's the main thing.
Okay, so essentially I'm Mike DeMarco, I'm with Salisbury Homes, and we came in and spoke with Hal here a few weeks ago in regards to the Smart piece of property down there on the corner coming up the road. Obviously that's a kind of a hot topic. So Hal's suggestion simply was that we could show a couple of different layouts if we were to develop that for single family housing and bring it in and just get the opinion of everybody so we can start looking at whether or not that project is feasible. Essentially, it's a really lean project. We think with the success we've had, those other two flats north of there, we could emulate essentially the same type of feel, the same type of little community there. We can make it work if it was built out like we've got it represented. I think there's two separate submittals there. One is R1 12,000, the other is R1 15,000. I think the lot count difference is 5. It's 37 versus 42. Both of them are a nice little community. Obviously, we'd like slightly higher density, but I don't think either make or technically break anything. We wouldn't mind having the larger lot sizes there if it was necessary. So we were really hoping before we pursued anything any further, we just got some opinion from the council before trying to make any type of decision there.
Okay. To clarify, I asked Mike to come in and make his presentation, although that was not my recommendation. My recommendation is far away from this, and we've already discussed that in terms of the city's need for an area for commercial development. Right now, it is, even though it is not in the city, the proposed zoning would be, I think, R115,000 with animal rights, if I'm not mistaken. Isn't that what we have, Royce? That's what I was understanding from Shay some time ago.
It's 20,
Is that
20,
it's 20?
yeah,
Or 20,000 with animal rights?
on the master.
On the master. So that becomes a long ways from what's proposed, and obviously until it's annexed into the city, we can't impose those restrictions, but it is the only area that we can see within the foreseeable boundaries and limitations that we might use for commercial development. And we've had this discussion quite often. So it's not anything that's unfamiliar to the council, but I did want Mike to at least make these presentations so you can see what Southbury is wanting to do, but that is not my recommendation. Council.
Are these lots smaller than or bigger than the Horizon View Farms then?
Yes,
So are they more like phase 2?
they're bigger than 2 as well. I think those lots are between
Yeah.
8 and 10,000 feet.
Yeah.
And some of those are, challenging actually to build on. We've had to design products specifically for a few of those narrow frontages up there.
Yeah.
And that's particularly why we looked at this sizing specifically, was not only to try and entice, the powers that be to give us the permission to build there, but that we had a product that would be a little more high-end. That's kind of the last area we've really got a shot at developing down there.
So that, would the price going to be quite a bit higher then?
I don't think quite a bit. We'll still be fairly aggressive on our numbers because it's just the Salisbury way. But there's definitely going to be a price differential between what we've just built in this project. It would be small though, it wouldn't be astronomical.
And you'd be going from a quite a bit smaller lot to a quite a bit larger lot. If you go from the average of say 800 or 8,000 square feet to 12,000 at the minimum, that's another 4,000 square feet. So that is significantly larger. If you went
I'm
to
just wondering-
15,000, you're almost doubling the size of the lot.
Most of them are like a third acre to bigger than a third
They're
acre
close to
on
that.
the R15.
So right now, then you purchased that property,
It has not.
haven't purchased it.
Not until we have a good feeling about it.
Yeah, that was what the mayor was saying, is that really is the only logical place where you've got 11,200 coming across to pick up traffic from the whole city area to have any commercial. And even if it's a small commercial area, you gotta get a gas station if it worked and some commercial. How many acres do you have there?
I think that's just over 20.
20 acres. And that goes from the canal
No,
to
no,
200?
No,
It's
that's.
on the left side.
Just 11,200?
South side of the canal.
Oh, it's the south
It's the
side
side
of
It's on
200.
the other side,
Okay.
the homes are on Skyhawk.
We've always been told by the smarts it was in the neighborhood of 18 plus acres, and if it's
I
20.
think it's just around 20. And the number might be 18.77 off the top of my head, something like that.
I knew it was in the 18 is what I was told, but we haven't pursued it actively because we're not looking to annex it as a city. We want to have the developers come through and participate in that regard.
I think this would make the people that live by me a lot happier, to be honest with you, than commercial.
Well,
I
I
know
think,
that's not the whole city, but I'm saying just,
no, but I think whatever our general plan shows, at the time the property owner makes application, should be what should steer this decision. If that makes sense. If our map shows that it's proposed for commercial, which at one point in time it did, they came in and that was what they were proposing, then, you know, we'd have a basis to say no, but if it isn't, you know what, let them exercise their property rights.
Well, currently it's our 20,000 with animal rights
Right.
though, and the
Right.
biggest is
Well,
our,
but that's
presented
what's
is our
proposed,
15,000 is
that's what's
proposed, right?
proposed, but if they come in and it's our own 20, then you know what, and that's probably what I'd be comfortable with. That's what our planning commission and our general plan shows, that's what it needs to be. And if we don't want that, then our planning commission needs to get that changed.
Make the proposal.
Yep, make the proposal and get it changed and updated in our general plan, at least that element of it, so that it matches what we're trying to accomplish, because if it doesn't reflect what we're trying to accomplish, most of her neighbors are gonna go on our website, they're gonna take a look at our general plan, and it's gonna show our 20,000, and they're gonna say, that's what I want.
Listen, I don't think they complain over this compared to.
Well, I'm not saying that they're gonna complain,
No, I'm just saying, like, I think they
But-
don't want commercial there.
but the thing we have to be cognizant of, and this, I'll just bring this up now, we have an agreement with Payson City for sewer hookup based on a build-out, and when that was calculated, that was not residential, something to think about. So in other words, there's more homes being built than what our capacity, if that becomes residential, we may impact the ability to build homes in other parts of the city because of our agreement and the capacity that they have
At least that would have to be
allocated based on our
evaluated.
contract, yeah.
Would have to be
We'd have to go to
reevaluated.
renegotiate the contract, and I don't know if I wanna open that can of worms.
Here's the question, would our 120, would that even sell down there? No. I mean, I'm just being, I'd
Well-
rather,
But
We have the same question about commercial development, will that sell?
I don't know, isn't Dean Ingram's development over there in the vicinity of the Stake Center, isn't it R120? Some of that. I'm thinking some of it is.
Maybe down
Well,
by where the
Gopher
horse
Canyon.
barn is.
Only-
or-
No.
Only if it had previously been,
Yeah.
and it's been rezoned, so I don't.
Yeah, I was trying to pull that up. but
I
it's-
don't remember it being.
I mean, the old houses down there,
Yeah, I was trying to pull.
the
our
old
general
houses
plans.
down there have property rights,
Two old-
right? Like
Right.
the Flowards and then the one below Flowards and the house
Yeah.
over.
It would be. Well, and there's only would not show it that way.
Yes, I know. Okay.
In this proposal, I'm thinking none of those houses would front the 1600 West, would they?
No.
And let's see, on 11, all of them would be from this inside, let's see, that. Oh, it does have at least two accesses.
Yeah, you'd have to have at least two accesses.
Yeah. But,
And we're not in the position here to try and take away the property rights of the smarts, or the ones who have the property currently, and I've had several discussions with them. I would not want to impinge their ability to do what they would like to with their property. I would just like to see some kind of an opportunity for the city to offset some of our very high property taxes, which, and I mentioned to Mike, probability after our discussion tonight could certainly go up either a little bit or a lot, or not at all. So,
well, I think whoever buys the land and if it gets approved, it gets approved, I mean, right? Isn't that kind of what we said? If you wanna have control, you buy the
We
land.
need to be proactive is what we want in the city before this land is developed. This is our time right now. If we want it residential, then fine, but, you know, I kind of lean in with the mayor that if we ever want to have any opportunity, a reasonable opportunity for commercial of any type, where else would you put it?
yeah, there's a lot of
But-
complications with commercial there, I understand that, there's a lot of.
Well, and it's not in the plan,
Well,
right?
Well, it was.
It is,
It
but
was,
it's
but it's not
was,
now.
and it is not now. And that, again, that's why we've had this
I know,
discussion in the
no, I
past,
know.
and why we've talked, is this something we want to relook at? and open it up so that we would have that option. But it would have to go planning commission and initially to get their input. They've heard from me, they know what I'm interested in, but then it has to come back to the council, so.
What are you gonna do? Keep raising property taxes? I'm
Well,
only here for 4 years, so if you wanna be here for 8, go for it.
no, I'm thinking, what about the cell tower? We've talked about that, we've talked about, just,
There are other options.
there are
no
other
question.
options, and I'm just saying from what I've heard from all the people that live down by me, which is what I said I would represent, overwhelmingly want homes there. And those would be our neighbors, it would affect us
Sure.
directly the most, and that's what they're saying they want, so that's what I'm,
And when we get residents that move into Elk Ridge, for the most part, we get pretty good people that move up here. They move up here because of what Elk Ridge is. And we don't want to lose that character, whether it's with commercial or residential. We understand that. We're not trying to keep people out. I'm trying, from my perspective, just to try and find a source of opportunity for the city.
You're trying to keep people in, so we don't price them out of the city altogether.
And to a certain degree, that's true. Absolutely, that's true. Our discussions on water tonight is going to impact us. The discussions on our tax rate tonight is going to impact. If not immediately, it certainly is going to in the future. There is not an option. Taxes will go up one way or the other. If we can't fund the items that we need within the city with the tax base that we get, and sure, we're gonna get another, 37 or 42 homes along with the others. Gosh, we've got another 250 that are still out there to be built.
Yeah.
We're gonna get a lot of income from both other homes. But we also are going to get the additional O&M costs that will be long-term, not just that one-time income boost. So,
And that's my main concern, it's been my main concern since I got on the council with every proposal for building that comes up here. I asked 2 questions, is it in code, and do we have the capacity to provide for those residents? And,
I think capacity-wise, yes, we would have capacity to service that many more homes. Again, renegotiating the sewer, I don't know what that would take for sure. I mean, that is a new issue that's been brought up, appropriately so. We'd have to talk with Payson and find out. But, Craig, from your perspective, would we have a difficult time with the, I know sewer is not your main, but you understand it.
Yeah, I would, they would carve out capacity, and if it wasn't there, then.
And we know that there's going to be a huge change in the physical plant in Payson.
Yeah,
That's gonna happen regardless. We've already been billed for it.
yeah.
So we know that that would happen. It would have to, they'd have to take some of that into consideration with their overall plans. In fact, your company did some of the studies for them.
Right, so 40, what are we talking, 40 homes, I mean, it has an impact, but in the grand scheme of things of theirs, a plant their size, it's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, but what would that do with impact fees and upsizing of lines and other things that, I mean, it's one thing to negotiate a contract, it's another to have to go, well, you're at a 12-inch line, now you gotta upsize it to 14, you gotta rip up a line from here to there, it's how many miles long, and increase the size, those types of things potentially that
We'd have to check that out.
Yeah,
we would
have
wanna know how that's gonna impact, because I don't think our impact fees, as they currently set, are designed for that type of an increase.
Well, they've certainly calculated your impact fee based on a number of connections in a planning window. And if that number of connections change substantially, it would definitely have an impact. If your capacity stayed the same, but your connections increased and you had the capacity, if you take the fee down, but my sense of it is that if we added a bunch of connections, the fee would go up. A little bit.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, and when I say capacity too, I don't just mean like sewer and water, but more roads means more snow plowed, more employees, more, I mean, our cost to service those houses goes up. And currently, the only way we have is to keep increasing property taxes. And I don't think that's fair to all the residents who are currently here.
Well, it's
Well,
gonna
the
have
question is,
to,
are
either
those
way.
homes,
No, well,
those
it-
homes fund themselves by the property taxes they pay?
and typically the answer is no. Typically, generally speaking, the property taxes you receive for the house do not cover the costs to service.
But
to
that's where we're
provide
at right now
services
with
to
every
the
house
house.
in Elk Ridge,
That
right?
is where we're
Right,
at.
but,
That's where we're at,
That's
so
what,
that's
Yeah.
property
neither,
tax rate is even an
But-
option right now.
right, but that's what I'm saying, but the more houses we increase, and the more, and you know
At
what?
some point,
And the thing is, yeah, people can do what they want with their property, and you know what, if you have growth that's slow, a house here, a house there, when you put in 200 homes, 60 homes, 90 homes, 110 homes, when you're putting in huge lots like that, and they don't meet code, all of a sudden we have this huge growth, and we're not ready to deal with it. I mean, if your growth is slow and steady, you don't have the problems that we're currently having.
Ty, you have a comment? Okay. Any
Well,
other,
code can be changed if that's what you're saying, right, Nelson? You would feel more comfortable if they go and petition the planning commission and make sure that works.
that would be the procedure that we'd have to go through.
Yeah, which I think is a good idea. I think then they can evaluate it and,
Because a conscious decision was made to change it from commercial to the R120,000. It wasn't just somebody went in and changed it on a document and boom, it was written. There was a hearing process, it went through the planning commission, came to the city council voted on it, approved it, and it became part of our general
when
plan.
was that done?
It had to have been at least 8+ years ago.
It was between, it was probably 2009 or 10, somewhere in that range. Because I know it was commercial the entire time I was on the council the first time.
And you weren't on it when they switched, so you don't know.
I have no idea. And it was during that period of time when I wasn't on the planning commission either. So I went back and I've been digging like crazy trying to find it, and I can't.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have one, Hal.
Please.
So I've taken this to 3 separate commercial investors in Utah County that are prominent individuals, and all 3 of them unequivocally said they would not invest with us in this as a commercial project. They said there's no rate of return that they can see in the foreseeable future. So you mentioned about the city potentially annexing a portion of it. Is that an option? We go and strike a deal with the Smarts and take down a certain percentage of it, and the city has the right to take down the rest of it? They're willing to do that
Right now, the city is not in a position at all to
physically?
to participate. We wouldn't have the dollars to do it.
And we don't either, and that's why I went out trying to seek outside assistance with that. And I haven't pursued it to the fact where I've, ran through every possibility in the county. But the same thing you had mentioned with the gas station, I reached out to the Maverick Association and asked them what their opinion would be.
I knew they would not.
We want.
They're a different animal entirely than would
And
come in here.
And I'm not a commercial, I know nothing about it, so for me, those were the avenues to me that were accessible, just to try and find some
And
type of
I know that this is a long shot, I understand that. And I have reached out to a few developers and a few individuals, and I had a couple of them come back, and one of them come back to me and said, the bank will not go with me. So I do understand that. I'm just trying to find, I care about my community, let's just put it that way, and I'm trying to help. And if residence is the only way that we can do this, then I'll back off and we'll leave commercial to somebody else, somewhere else. Certainly you'd be welcome to take it to the planning commission and get their opinion to see if they would be willing to look at it. So that would be your next step. And then their recommendation would be brought forward here, and,
Just in a hard place, we're in a rock and hard place in a lot of ways here, in my mind.
we are.
We desperately need another source of income for the city. but it's a tough place to develop. It's a tough place to get anybody to put commercial there, because
You gotta
it's
have.
just
you gotta
it's just not the
It's all about
demographics that work.
rooftops.
The type of commercial that would bring tax revenue. You
Tax
could,
revenue.
you could put a
Exactly.
dentist office
Right.
there just fine, I think, and it
That
would do
doesn't
well.
help us.
But that doesn't help us, it doesn't bring any tax revenue.
Not sales tax.
Yeah.
We need a Tesla car dealership. That's what we need.
I'll call
Okay,
them on
How,
Monday.
how active are the smarts in selling this property? Just
They're
to-
holding off until they get the price they want.
Okay,
Let's put it
so
that
it's,
way.
they're not being aggressive. Yeah, I guess the only reason I think
property's-
about it,
It's been for sale.
yeah, I've seen the
since I've been
sign,
mayor.
yeah. Yeah, I know it's been for sale for a while. I guess the only reason I think about it is, I mean, what if they do get the right offer and it's somebody that just wants to have pasture land, and then we miss out 100% on any type of revenue that could come from that property.
That would be.
You know what I mean? We just,
And see, they can do that and still leave it in the county.
right,
They can't develop it
right,
in the county. County will not go with that.
sure.
So right now it is pasture land, but we don't have any income as it is, so
Yeah.
they could sell it 10 times.
Not
So
costing us
that's not
anything.
gonna.
Yeah,
County
right,
requires 5 acres to develop on, so if they've got a little over 20 acres, you could put 4 homes there.
but if you have somebody interested in developing it as a residential area,
Yeah.
you know,
The problem with, they can sell 5-acre lots, but they don't have any way to service it. They have to come into our city to get services
right,
for that development. Because county does not provide the kinds of services that are required.
They couldn't do their own well and their own, no? I'm just asking, I'm not trying to be belligerent, like, cause my friend's
No,
building
I'm-
and they
had
just,
water rights,
they
they
just
probably
did
could do
drill
their
their
own.
own well, and they're putting in
I
their septic
suppose
tank
that
and,
that would maybe be a possibility, because electricity has nothing to do with us.
yeah.
It's water, sewer, roads.
Yeah, like they're paying all of their own stuff to do that, but they're on like 6.5 acres or whatever in county.
If the county's not very excited about that, ask up Loafer Canyon. We've had how many different requests at Loafer Canyon for that very option. And residents have come to us to try and get us to provide some service, and even sell water to them and such, but even sell road service. So, county's not excited about that kind of a thing, not that it couldn't happen. I guess it could happen. So, well, I think that's where we're at. So Mike, I will kind of leave, you've heard from the council. You have maybe a little bit more information?
Yes,
You'll know
sir.
which way to pursue,
Understood.
so. Okay. We will move then to discussion of our test well. We're gonna turn the time over to Craig.
Thank you.
We asked him to come down here, and we've been meeting with him since 4 o'clock. We've also had meetings with him, last Friday to get some more information. Craig and, Kay and Craig have been in discussions, Royce has, so here we go.
All right, so I'm just gonna draw the system out, just a schematic, and then we can kind of talk about some of the ideas.
Looks like a satellite photo to me.
It's gonna get even better. So Loafer Well is rated for 667 gallons per minute. It's currently producing 400 gallons a minute because it has a European control board in it, which was an emergency fix because the VFD manufacturer was nowhere to be found. So it's running off basically pushing 380 volts to the motor where it should be pushing 460. So all of our planning efforts have been predicated on the 667. So all the numbers that you saw in the capital facilities plan are based on this, which is the state rated number. Regardless of how much this well produces, we can't ever claim more than 660 gallons a minute in the associated rooftops. There's the Highline well here.
More commonly called the.
Cloward well. The Cloward well was the old well. I call the new well the Highline. They're interchangeable.
Well, I think it's a good place to change so that
But-
it's accurate.
So it's rated at 1,233 gallons a minute. And that's about what it's giving us. It might be giving us 12, yeah, I think it might be giving us 13. We can only take credit for 1,233. So this is the rating, and this is the capacity, and this is the rating and the capacity. So then we have 3 tanks. We have the upper tank at 500,000 gallons. And we have the hillside tank at 500,000 gallons. And then we have fairway tank. And don't mind the scale here. This is 1 million gallons. We have a booster pump station at fairway tank. That's the fairway booster. It can boost water up to the hillside tank. Based on what we have now, we can probably move about 1,000 gallons a minute. And that's the supplement flow, trickle down flow from Loafer. Then at hillside tank, we have another booster station called the Oak Lane, and I think 300 gallons a minute?
Roughly in there.
300 gallons a minute. Okay. So with this scenario right here and rated capacities, at this point in time, we have a surplus that's uncommitted based on these flow numbers and our analysis of 200 rooftops, basically. I'm going to call them ERCs. Now that includes, Elk Ridge Meadows is already allocated. I mean, we're including all of that stuff down there. Everything that we've approved from a preliminary standpoint is been allocated.
And is that based upon capacity or rating?
It's based upon rating,
Based
which is
upon-
the only number that we can really use in this case.
Okay. So, but our capacity is below our rating. I just
Well,
want to make
it's-
sure we're on the same page.
Slightly above here,
But it's above on this one and below on the other
below
one.
on this one, currently.
But that's because of the control board, not
I
because
think
of
we
the-
can get, we can squeeze close to this out of this, once we replace the VFD and get rid of the problem with the voltage.
Okay.
Because we're
But I'm
running-
just saying currently, like
Yeah.
where we're at currently.
Currently,
Okay.
so all of our planning numbers are based on the ratings, because we knew that this was temporary over here and the replacement's budgeted. So, based on these, and this is based on the state's requirement for source. The state has 3 requirements. They require a certain amount of flow from your sources, a certain amount of storage from your tanks, and then it requires your distribution system to supply difference in a peak day flow, a peak instantaneous flow while maintaining certain pressures, plus a peak day flow with fire flow while maintaining certain pressures. We don't have a lot of trouble with the distribution system because we're on a steep hill and we're burning energy as we go down. So if we look at our, this is the sources. So with everything that's been approved preliminarily, we still have 200 to spare. As far as our storage, we have about 600 ERCs, which is actually outside of our planning window. So, sorry, I flipped this. We don't have any storage planned, but we do have some operational limitations that, in fact, talking to McKay, we were talking about increasing storage, but the problem is you already have plenty of storage. It's just a matter of being able to manage things and get the flow online where it needs to be at the right times. So currently what happens is, this 1,233 gallons a minute gets pumped up to the fairway. There's a lot of demand in this lower zone. So what that does is it limits how long McKay can run this booster pump station to supplement hillside. So with all the demand that's occurred this year especially, we haven't seen it as much in years past, this 1,200 gallons a minute kind of gets robbed on its way up. And so when he runs fairway station at 1,000 gallons a minute, we're supplying 1,233 here. You have 400 gallons a minute getting used on the way up. You lose level in this tank. That's a scary thing. Operationally, it makes you think, oh my gosh, I'm gonna hit the bottom of the tank. Eventually it pulls out, it catches up, but it limits what he can pump here. We can pump up to 1,500 gallons a minute here. The problem is we only have one conduit up, and so if we can't move 1,500 gallons, we'd have to create a separate line. And our idea was to run a new line up to Salem Hills Drive and create 2 different paths for the water to go to allow us to get more water that way. We'd also, it'd be nice to get more capacity in Hillside and expand this booster pump station, which is in the capital facilities plan, to come up to here, so that we'd have the ability to move water all the way up, offset deficits up here, and also take care of if this were down. So you're real close to hitting your source capacity, which was always planned. We always knew your building permits are right on pace with the projections we did. We figured you needed to have a new source online by 2019, 2017, something like that. So everything is kind of tracking the way we anticipated. So when you look at this scenario, what you'd like to have in your system is enough redundancy so that you could lose a source temporarily. Right now you only have 2 motors. Okay, one motor will give you, you can keep the system going off of the Highline well or the Flower well. But if you lose that, your local well isn't enough. So what you would like to have is the ability to lose your highest producing well and still be able to supply your residents. So that's what we're trying to accomplish with this new well. If we could get another 1,000 gallons a minute down here, you know, the mechanisms are in place that we can kind of distribute that water down. I mean, whatever we got out of the Skyhawk well, it would help offset the problem that McKay has not being able to run this booster pump station long enough to really get all the water up here that he needs, because we'd have a lot more water coming in down here. So this well here, we might be able to re-drill it and get more water. I just don't know. I mean, it had some issues. It's only 300 feet deep. There's probably fracture zones that are deeper. But in order to do that, we've got to take this one offline. We can't drill next to this well and have it in operation. And that's where we want to drill, because that's where we found the water. So if you took this offline and you lost a motor or a pump over here, you've got no water. So what I've always believed is that it makes sense to get another good alluvial producing well. Skyhawk is where we drilled the exploratory well. It looks to have good production. It may not be a Highline or Cloward well, but it's going to be, we project it to be better than a Loafer well. So it gives us redundancy and it gives us additional capacity. Now the nice thing about the Skyhawk well is there's a growth component to that that's paid by growth, so it's part of the impact fee. But there's a redundancy benefit to that growth that's also realized. And so when you look at the proportionate shares for the Skyhawk well, 70% of it, just shy of 70%, will be paid for by growth out of your impact fees. But your impact fee revenue doesn't come in soon enough to help you. It's like you have to build it and it will come. So you have to create a bond scenario or some way to fund the well, increase your rates enough to pay for that cost, and then you can pay that bond down early with impact fees, or you can actually replenish your enterprise fund and have those in reserve for other emergencies or to cover depreciation costs or things like that you're not covering right now. So that's sort of the Skyhawk well argument. What are your questions as far as what are our other options? What could we do?
So as a point of reference, before it became the Highline well, when it was the Flower well at the other location across the.
Just right there,
Yeah,
on the
right
same
there.
site.
It was, what level was it producing at? Was it, do you remember?
It's a 6-inch line, so my guess is it couldn't have been producing more than 500 gallons.
Okay.
It pumped all the way to the hillside tank directly.
And
correct.
that's why we have that booster line in place.
Well,
Or
what
a portion
we're,
of it anyways.
well, there is a line down there, it's not being used, but this line actually, we pump fairway through the distribution system. So essentially we hook into the distribution system in Hillside and pump it up through the distribution system. The problem is that there's just not enough flow separation and enough conduit capacity to keep the head loss down. So we limit what the pumps will produce, and we also have to be conscious of system pressures, because if we juice the pressure up too much, everybody's gonna see it. So understand that when we pump water from Fairway up to Hillside, it takes adding pressure to the system. If that pressure is too high, then all of a sudden people start to see too high pressures in their homes.
So that's if we use the distribution system, but if we took and we ran another line that was a dedicated line specifically for that, you could juice the pressure up there, so to speak, and then it
We
would.
could move a lot more water here. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I just
You're
wanted to
right
make
on.
sure that I was following what you were.
You're right on, and we have the same problem with Skyhawk right now. Highline pumps up a 10-inch line. We get enough flow, if we do Skyhawk, get enough flow, we've got to make sure, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get a dedicated pump line from both Highline, Cloward, and Skyhawk up to Fairway. And that gives us two advantages. If we had a problem down the road where we had some coliform issues or something like that, and the state said we need chlorinate, we don't have any way to get contact time pumping through the distribution system. So if we, and the way we planned it is to create a dedicated pumping line, which allows us to chlorinate at the well, comes into Fairway tank, we get contact time, and we can distribute from there, boost chlorinated water up to here, and boost chlorinated water up to here.
And that's a real possibility that could potentially happen, where we have a lot of homes that don't have backflow preventers on, right? I mean, isn't that how it typically gets introduced?
Yeah, generally if you violate the coliform rule at your sources, or if you have enough itch in your system, then they're gonna start looking at that. So what we're trying to do is kill, 2 or 3 birds with one stone by bolstering the supply from the bottom, knowing that, we may have this option here. In fact, if we get this Skyhawk well, and it gets us by for 10, 15 years, sometime in that 10, 15-year period, maybe we take this offline and re-drill it. Or start to look at another site somewhere over by Premier Point, Wolford Canyon, 112.
Or something joint.
Or something else, yeah. But for right now, we're sort of getting really close to what our capacities are. But I think we have the remedies for it. It's just a matter of figuring out how to fund it and get rolling.
Dana,
Sorry,
go
Bill,
ahead.
go ahead.
I was just wondering what is the final stats on the Skyhawk well, on that test well?
I don't have the, sorry.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
I don't have the final report yet. I left a message for our geohydrologist, and he wasn't able to return the call, but he feels like that there's a decent area of production. It'll be similar to the Highline well. I really doubt, the Highline well was test pumped at 1,800 gallons a minute. It's rated at 1,200. I would think that we'd get somewhere in between that, and I would hope that we'd get an 800 gallon a minute to 1,000 gallon a minute rated capacity for Skyhawk. So you can see that it really boosts things up. If it's 800, it still gives you a room to grow, and it gives you, the redundancy.
That gives you twice as much as what we're getting below.
Right. So it gives you that redundancy, so that if Highline goes down, you've still got 800 from, I'm just gonna use that number, 800 from Skyhawk and 600 from Welford. You're at 1,400. It's more than Highline ever produced. And again, Highline, I think I'm right, McKay, Highline could basically sustain you right now. I mean, the way McKay was able to keep everybody at least in indoor water for that period of time with 400 gallons a minute, I mean, it was not easy, because that's not a lot of water. So, I mean, I think the challenges are great when it comes down to losing the source. So, the redundancy is super important. Motors fail, pumps fail. If we have enough to at least get us by, even if we have to conserve for a short period of time, I mean, that's better than just saying, if we had to conserve on outdoor water, then we would never not provide indoor water. I mean, that's number one priority. But it'd be nice to say, yeah, well, let's go with all a system here or something in the interim so that we can get by, make sure we're safe, give the operators some room to breathe, which, they didn't have a lot of for a couple of weeks there. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Again, like I said, the well itself is a pretty nice investment for the current residents, because it eventually gets paid for 70% by development. It'll come back. So it is definitely growth driven, although the redundancy component does benefit the users.
Okay, I have a few questions. Currently, are there any parts of Elk Ridge where the houses are fed right by the well, or is everyone in the city fed from the tank?
There are homes fed off Highline Well right now,
Okay.
and there might be, no, I don't think so. I think it's just down below, right?
Yeah, right.
So, but yeah, our goal would be to eliminate that.
So do we know like how many gallons per minute are going from the Highline Well right to houses, and how much is actually going to the Fairway tank? I
You
mean,
know, I think it's obviously, more than 233 gallons a minute, because when McKay kicks this on and loses water in this tank, it's exceeding the difference between those two. Now, understand it's not the end of the world, because water that you don't have to lift all the way up to the tank.
no, it stays, yeah, yeah.
It's basically water you consume without moving it all the way up. But again, because of the fact that we would like to reserve the option to have contact times and chlorination in the future, and it also evens out the system. Down at the bottom, down by the well where people are hooked on, there's some pretty decent pressure fluctuations when the pump comes on. And that's the real trick, is finding a way to bring more water up from the bottom without taking those pressures higher than we want them to be.
So is the Skyline well it's in the same aquifer as the Highline Well, correct?
It is.
So, I mean, how do we think that's gonna affect our Highline Well if we build the Skyline Well or the Skyhawk Well and put it online?
We're using a study that was completed about 10 years ago. Auckland and IGES looked at that, and they decided what the safe distances, they established safe distances between the wells. So based on the aquifer characteristics at Highline and extending it laterally, they decided that buffers of 1,300 feet at least to 1,500 feet were sufficient. So we've maintained that with the Skyhawk. I wouldn't say that that the cones of depression won't overlap, Brittany, but according to what we know, it wouldn't be a significant impact on either one. I mean, you'd certainly see some impact if you ran them both, operated them both at once, but I don't think it'd be anything that'd be terribly significant.
I mean, we're talking about 300 gallons a minute loss on each one. I'm just trying to figure out, right? If we take the Loafer Well off Canyon and we're running Highline and Skyhawk, what's gonna be our actual production since they're pulling, first of all, I guess, how far apart are they in terms of feet? How much buffer do we have? And then what is gonna be the effect per gallons per minute?
Well, I think
that
they're
we know.
about 1,500 feet apart. I'm not sure what the cone of depression looks like out that far, but it's on the order of a few feet. So a few feet difference, is not gonna make a significant difference. And I would think that the interference would be limited to, less than 250 gallons a minute between the two.
Okay, so
If you operate
250
them
total
both.
between them both.
I'm guessing though, I mean, just understand that it's.
Yeah, right, and I'm just trying to understand, you know what I mean?
It's not gonna be, it's not like we're robbing Peter to pay Paul. We're robbing Peter a little bit to pay Paul.
Basically, though, if the pump sits down at 500 some feet
Right.
at Highline, we still have X number of feet above and below. And we're gonna have that same scenario on the Skyhawk well. So even though you're gonna see this at the top of the aquifer, pumps are down here. And once you draw that water down, and then you finally shut it down again, and daytime comes, people stop watering, that aquifer from the surrounding regions comes back in and equalizes. So for the most part, it's not going to impact much at all.
If we were drawn off the surface, it'd be an issue.
Yeah, I think what you do is run one or the other for a
And
while.
that is the plan.
And then you put one of these bottom, Loafer's always gonna run. You put one of the lower wells in late, you put one of them in lag. It only kicks on when you need it. Seasonally, you mess with that. Every month you change it. You put the other well in lead and the other well in lag. So that, you use them sparingly and judiciously. But I don't think there'd be a long-term effect. The other component to this is conservation. I mean, there's a lot of water being used in the summer. And if there were a way to force conservation, or not force it, but promote it, sorry, that chose the words mine, promote conservation, then, you know, we could stretch this surplus out. And, you know, I mean, if you were able to, I mean, we've established your indoor use at demand per dwelling at 330 gallons a minute, which is right on. I mean, you figure 80 gallons per day per capita. You got 4 people per household, or 4.5. You know, you're right on that number. So right there, we kind of rule out significant leakage from the system and things like that. So if your indoor use, right now your indoor use is 330 gallons per day per household. Your average day use is about 1,200 gallons per day per household. And your peak day use is about 2,300 gallons per day per household. Now this is a really high number. The spread between your indoor and your outdoor, I mean, that's 7 times. That's really high.
So indoor use is 330.
333, or
Okay.
yeah, 330, sorry. 1,200 is your average. So what you do is,
Gotcha.
you know, this number, this average ought to be closer to this 330. It ought to be maybe twice. But what's happening is this summer use, this peak use here is dragging this number up. So if you can work on these numbers, then all of a sudden it frees up additional capacity and also alleviates issues in emergencies. We were also thinking it would be great to have an emergency generator. The real linchpins are Highline Oil. You already have an emergency generator up here. It would be nice to have one at Highline or Skyhawk. And it'd be nice to have one for this Fairway booster, because those are the 3 major components that really make the difference for you. It'd be nice to have more capacity here, and it'd be nice to have emergency generating capacity there. And I'm thinking that you could limp along, you know, in this upper section, just off this well, if you had, you know, or you could basically get by for a little while, but by holding demand from trickling down. But it'd be nice to have some emergency generating capability.
So, okay, so if we get a new electrical board on the Loafer well, then we should get that up closer to 660 gallons per
I'm
minute.
hoping it's about right there, yeah.
Okay, have we looked at how likely it is that we could increase the capacity of that well?
You can't exceed that right there.
No, but by,
Without re-drilling.
yeah, by like re-drilling, I mean, is that an option, or did they stop when they got to that point because they couldn't go further, or was it was sufficient when it was put in 40 years ago, you know?
What they did was they drilled it, they lost the drill still, we pump tested it. They tried to get 1,000 gallons a minute out of it. In order for it to be rated at 1,000 gallons a minute, they had to pump it continuously for 72 hours to a stabilization point. They only made it to 50 before they had to shut it off because they were getting down to where the pump was going to be. So 1,000 gallons a minute wasn't sustainable. The state came in and said, you know, we've got, you've got to rate it by 2/3, which is the 667. Looking at the step test data, I'm thinking that you might be able to get up to 800 out of it. That's going to take a bigger motor. We could probably get 100, it's a 75 horsepower motor in there. We could probably get 100 horsepower motor in there and actually deliver more water, even though we couldn't help the rating with that. Beyond that, I think we could do that without the primary feed being a problem up from the bottom, because that's another limiter. I think beyond that, it would be kind of dicey.
We'd have to be 3-phase to do that.
Yeah, and what we're doing, exactly, what we're doing right now, Brittany, is we've got a single phase line up to this well. And then we put a VFD on there, which is, we just call it an inverter. When it works in reverse, we can actually take a single phase signal and artificially create 3 phases and run a motor. But once you start to get horsepowers up, it gets less efficient. And so at some point you probably want a 3-phase feed from the bottom. That's huge bucks. My guess is we could probably get, and one of the things I want to do is verify with SESD what the primary feed capacity is. It'd take a new transformer, bigger motor, and we could probably get 800 there. So to give us more flow, it wouldn't change our rating, but
But it
more
would be
flow is
more
more flow.
flow, which is,
yeah.
which is what we
Absolutely.
need, and then it would be flowing down, and then the 300 gallons per minute from hillside to upper wouldn't be as big of a problem if we've already got, you know, 300 or 150 to 300 more coming in.
Right.
The more we can trickle down, the better.
Yeah.
The drawdown in Highline's really not, it's an awesome well. I mean, the static's at 300, I think the drawdown's at 375, maybe close to 4. So we got 100 foot of water over the well, which is good, or over the pump. What you don't wanna do is ever get close to sucking air into the pump, because it'll cavitate and wear it out. We probably have cascading water here, it's no big deal. But we would try to operate Skyhawk the same way. We probably, we've found production zones below about 450, so we'd probably start screening it there. And screen all those lower production zones and leave drawdown room, because you'd like to try to avoid dewatering the screens if you can, because it allows water to cascade in and it drains air. Air causes bacteria to grow faster, and it also adds air to the water, which sometimes can shorten the life of the equipment.
So, okay, can you tell me about the other tank we have, or not, the other well we have that's not online right now in Loafer Canyon?
It's a Dugway well.
The Dugway well,
It's
yeah.
40 gallons a minute.
That's the rating?
That's what it'll produce.
Okay.
And I think we had taken steps to bring that online, and the state's just waiting for us to provide the sampling for that. I know that it was put online on an emergency basis last year when the motor, or 2 years ago, when the motor at Highline burned out. We got permission from the state to do that, but they still want us to reactivate it. It's been deactivated. Now, it's 40 gallons a minute. You know, it's a drop in the bucket, but it's still a drop, right?
Right.
So we could certainly operate it. I think,
So I was wondering about that, like, are the pumping costs, I mean, per gallon the same from that as the Loafer well or the Cloward well? I mean, I was trying to think, why would they take it offline? And the only reason I could think was maybe the pumping costs, like, per gallon was super high compared to these other wells. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
you bet. I just think that they looked at 40 gallons a minute and thought, you know, that's not much of a well compared to what we have in these other two. It's not worth messing with.
How deep is that 40 gallon a minute well?
You know, I can't remember, I think it's about 500 feet deep.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
You know, Bill, I think it's too close to the fault. I mean, I think what happens there is, that's why these lower wells are better, they're more alluvial. This well was up kind of in the jumble that's sort of, and almost a shadow from the fault, because the fault sort of acts like a dam. We know that because the local well is such a solid producer for us, and water, you know, comes down through Thatcher's and kinds of holds there because there's been a shift. And so it doesn't seep through the dam. And so the farther you get away from that, the more chance you get recharge from other areas to come in. And so the lower we go in the aquifer, the better off we are in these bottom wells. These bedrock wells are hit and miss. You know, this is a good one, but you know, there's been a lot more bedrock wells that didn't yield anything than there have been bedrock wells that yielded something. But you know, this is a good one and probably worth looking at, if not in the short term, maybe in the mid or long term.
So another question, the line that we ran, just capped off, through the roundabout, is that, that's one that would be this bypass?
Yeah, it would be the direct pump line.
The direct pump
from
line.
the Skyhawk well to Fairway Tank.
To Fairway Tank.
Yeah, we have a couple of different options there. We're looking at the best piping combination to keep the head losses down if we join the two flows. Eventually that 10 would come in and it would either have to join the 10 that was there that actually comes up from the Highline well, or we'd have to lay a separate line up. The thought is we could also maybe flip, if the hydraulics were such, we could say, well, the 10-inch will be the distribution line. We'll put a 12-inch in, which is part of the capital facilities plan for the water, and just change uses there so that we take advantage of the flow capacity of the 12-inch for these two wells. Because in reality, we're burning energy going downhill, so we have residual energy, so we get it out of the smaller pipe.
Yeah.
We just have to see if that made sense or not, which is one of the things that we do from a preliminary standpoint.
But that's a whole new line we'd have to put in and tear up the brand new
Oh,
road
yes.
that was just put in.
No.
Well, no, not put in that line.
Yeah, we-
Oh, I thought we were
So
talking
what
about
size
putting
was
in.
that line you put in, or the, was it
I mean,
12 or
we're
10?
It was 10,
It's 10.
because the capital facility said 12, so I asked about this, and they said that they had decided we didn't need a 12-inch, and that a 10 would be fine.
10's great for the one well. It's only bringing flow up from the Skyhawk. So flow comes up from Highline, flow comes up from Skyhawk. At some point, we gotta bring them together because the pump line comes up past the park and over the tank.
So bring them both up into 12.
We could bring them both up into 12, and we have that in the capital facilities plan.
Yeah, that
I
makes
mean,
sense.
we've got actually 2 12-inch line projects. We might be able to consolidate them, depending on the hydraulics. We just have to take a hard look at it. But we try to come up with the best piping scenario to minimize energy costs and get all the flow that we could up there without too much pressure. So the way we've got it planned right now, Brittany, that line that was capped was 10, and that was only for the one future well. We just put it in there because we didn't want to rip it up.
And we're looking to do a similar thing with this project that is going on right now because of the
You have to
construction.
put in the pipe.
We'll have that in place before the final roads and everything else are in. That's part of that plan as well.
Yeah, we're bringing a 14
Puts you
out.
right at Fairway.
Yeah,
Just
it
below.
does.
Just below.
It
That's a
comes
good-
down.
Good place to do that.
Yeah.
It'd be a 14, once we hit, we plan on laying a 14 down to Park for the distribution line. But an interim solution, we could also, we get up to the point where we hit Park, we could also pump up the distribution line into the tank on a temporary basis until such time as we needed to, increase the line capacity coming out. But I think the big bottleneck right now is the 10-inch line that runs all the way from Highline Mile up across Goose Nest, and adding more flow to that without some additional flow capacity is gonna be pretty tough. But I think, we've got a good plan laid out for it, and it is part of the capital facilities plan.
And then our long-term capital facilities plan also includes another well up low for above this well on the other side of the fault line, is that correct?
Well, it includes another well. I think we planned on maybe re-drilling this and trying to get more water out of here. The water rights issues up here, we really struggle with them. Get a lot more flack up here. So one of the things I'm gonna do is determine how many water rights we have in here and how much we can practically pump out of that well with the water rights we have in there. And that'll give us another bit of the picture, a bit of the puzzle. Because they really, they don't want it, we would drill this as a replacement well, and if we got more water, we'd deal with it. Which I think we would get more water.
Yeah, if we're going to 350.
I mean, there's more fractures down there, there's gotta be, I think that the fault, I'd have to look at the numbers, but, there's a reason all that water's there, we ought to be able to develop a little bit more, but I just don't think we can do it without this third well.
So we need to have that third well in place before we go,
Absolutely.
just so that we're
Yeah,
better covered there.
yeah, and ultimately, even, somewhere there, like I said, at 112 and Wolfer Canyon is a good place to drill a well too, I mean. But if we can knock these demand numbers down, maybe we don't need it.
Well, I mean, just if we have more water coming from the top, I mean, it takes the same to pump it out of the ground up. But if we can just have it gravity fed from the top down instead of pumping all our water from the bottom up,
Yeah,
I mean, we're gonna save in pumping costs and then be able to not raise people's water rates as much.
oh, it
Or
definitely takes,
save, I mean, because the pumping cost is a huge part of our water rates.
it is.
So what Craig's talking about here on this 1,200, 2,300.
Yeah, is the
We've got
conservation.
excessive use. We're one of the highest usages in the state. And what is the end result? How many lawns are like Dale? I mean, realistically, the geology that we have here, the topsoil that we don't have here, the clay, all of the other issues that we have, and people getting used to just watering because it's always been there. And there is a state mandate that we are gotta start reducing our production by 25%. That's on the books right now. We've gotta start figuring out how to do that.
So the
No, and
other,
I mean, we put that water conservation flyer together last year, and we talked about changing code, and people didn't want code
Well-
changed to require, you know,
And so if they're not gonna do it by code, then we'll do it by pocketbook,
you get,
realistically.
you got charging $3.33 per 1,000 gallons in your base rate. This new state law requires you to charge more than that per 1,000 gallons beyond your base rate. And this is Ty's bailiwick, he's done a lot of work on this. Do you, I mean, just basically this discussion, I mean, do you have any, take any exception with the basic numbers here?
No, in fact, I was very pleased with what I found in actual numbers, right? Based on what I thought we had surplus, right? Even dropping those numbers off down to where we see here on the board, that we're in a pretty good place, actually. The only number I see that I would like to verify is the 2,300 in the month of July. Now, that's an over the month average, right? On the gallons per day, we're about 1,700 is where I see it.
Okay,
So we might be a little better off than we think in that regard.
Yeah, we need to figure out.
But I don't know what the other two are, so I need to crunch a couple of those.
Well, you've got a
Just in
copy of the
actuals.
report, take a look at that, you can figure out how we came up with the numbers. And if
Yeah, I did, I
you know,
went back
if
to annotated.
If we've overestimated this number, I'd like to know where, and, you know, if we
Yeah.
haven't, then maybe, you know, we're not as big a water hog as I
Well,
thought.
maybe I put something together and you and I ought to sit down and look
Okay.
through this.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Is that okay?
Yeah, so I think what's gonna happen, right now, I think your overage rate is at 0.7 per 1,000 gallons? Or no, it's half,
No.
it's
$1.80,
$1.80?
well, on the first tier.
Yeah.
First tier per
What's
1,000
the-
gallons. So if you kept this base rate the same, this rate needs to go up to above 330.
Yeah, above that.
So there is a way to generate some revenue.
What's the 333?
That's your base rate, that's 40,000 gallon, let's see, $40 a month for
40 that's
12,000
40
gallons.
plus 12,000 gallons, that's the 12,000 gallons.
Yeah, that's your 12,000 gallons,
Base.
$40. So you can see that you need to work with the rates anyway, which is your deal, I don't wanna belabor that, but there's an opportunity here to, I guess, higher water users shouldn't be subsidized to use more water. They shouldn't be encouraged to use more water under the current guidelines and under any water conservation ethic on earth. So that's basically what you're doing right now. And you're not the only one. And all the cities that I know of that have this upside down tier structure are working to fix it.
yeah,
And-
Ty put together a great presentation on that for us with all the
Yeah,
numbers, so.
and he's done a lot of work. But, yeah, we should sit down and talk about this, because I don't wanna, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's chicken little enough, I don't wanna make it worse than it is. Certainly could impact.
So I was
some
actually quite
circumstances.
pleasantly surprised with our situation. I think we do have an issue of being able to move water. Right?
And redundancies.
Yeah,
is
and
the other
redundancy, of
part.
course, is an issue.
Because motors
Well,
fail,
yeah.
pumps fail. That's inevitable.
Any other discussion, any other questions for Craig?
They just wanna know what's next, where we're going from here.
That is the big issue. If we have been looking at this for 2.5, almost 3 years, talking about redundancy. It started before the pump went out 2 years ago, the motor, excuse me, and now we've been working on it since then, somewhat actively, that when we've got the test well in place, it makes absolutely no sense to know the issues and not move forward actively, aggressively. If what he said here was our worst case scenario, as soon as we get the current homes built, we get 200 more, we're out of surplus. That could happen within 4, 5, 6 years. And we've got to have that redundancy in place. If we've got 2 years, that's about what it's gonna take to put everything together to get a well in production, all the lines in place. It will take us close to 2 years. We could start drilling as soon as next spring if we decide that that's what we need to do, and I think that's what we need to do.
Well, it's
So-
good, 'cause, well, the way, I was gonna say, the way growth is going, we have more than 100 homes a year going in up here.
That's what I'm saying.
So if the well's gonna take 2 years, I mean, we're,
Start
gonna be over our
That's exactly the
surplus.
point.
Our connection count, 14% increase last year.
That 200 is unplatted growth, not platted stuff. So
Correct.
that's Rock Ridge Meadows and this
That's
other,
already
It's already-
that's already into that equation.
It's already-
It is.
But I think that we should move forward, take whatever the next step is, and that's really my question, what's the next step? And whatever that next step is, we need to take the next step and get it charted out. Let's
So when we talked about getting that, the cost tuned in a little bit better, right?
Yeah.
And then looking at what we're gonna have to do for bonding and getting that figured, because that number, I wanna plug into our rate calculation so that we can get that on track,
Yeah.
right? We're gonna have to have that in place before we can actually initiate the bond in order to make the payments. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It does. What I think needs to happen next is the council needs to decide that we officially move forward with our redundancy plan to get this well in production. Now, that will take step 1, 2, 3, 4, like you're suggesting and Craig is suggesting. But if we made the commitment, now we can start assessing what it is it's gonna take to allow that to happen. The impact fees that will come in over time will help us somewhat with some of the funding. We can't commit all of it, but there's that base there gives us a little bit of an opportunity to say, this money's is already in there, it's already coming in, based on the homes that are being built and have been platted, and we know where we're going. We have some opportunity to get some decent funding in place by the time we're ready to start bonding.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, I think when we talked with Ty and Royce about it, that, you know, we're in that $1 million bonding range, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. It might be a little light for a private funding alternative, but we could check it out and see. But I mean, you know, Division of Water Resources is a great agency to fund. The first thing they would do is they do a preliminary report. They would look at your affordability guidelines and determine how much water rate you could pay. Now, they would force you to raise your rate before they loaned you any money. You know, so it is, the rate increase is something that you gotta jump on, but even a private lending agency will make sure that their bases are covered, that there's a revenue stream there. And then you can use your impact fee money to, most bonds have a little bit of an early payment penalty, but you know, if you had a 20-year bond, it'd be 10 years. So you basically can pay off the bond a little bit early with impact fee revenue. You can also reimburse the enterprise fund with impact fee revenue if you keep track of it adequately and accurately. So that, you know, again, about 70% at least of the wealth would go to growth eventually. You'd capture most of that back.
So I think I've got 3 questions that I just want to know that we move forward with this. First, the average cost we're thinking to build the wells around $1 billion.
Well, we estimated 1.4 all in. I think
Okay.
we talked about maybe adding some emergency generators. There's some things we can trade in the original cost estimate. We had a land cost that we maybe trade some generator capacity for, just some things. So we probably need to refine the scope a little bit. And we're working on that right now.
Okay, so
For
around
you.
around 1.4 million, maybe a little more.
That's what we had.
Okay, how much money do we currently have in water impact fees that we could apply to the well?
That's a couple $100,000, I think. I don't know the exact number, but Royce.
Somewhere in that range.
Oh, sorry, Royce.
2 to 3.
200,000 to
Oh,
300,000?
go ahead, Greg. Did you look at
No.
that? What was it?
Discussion.
It's between 2 to 3 at year end this year.
But you do, I mean, you collect impact fees at the rate of $5,500 a connection, so in another year's time, you might have another $250,000.
Well, yeah, and then the other thing I would just like to know is the production of the well. I'd like to have that back from the geologist before I said, yeah, let's go all in and start building this well. I'd like to know what the actual numbers are.
Very difficult to get an actual number. I can tell you that we did e-log it, which gives us an idea of how productive the zones are, and compared those to Highline. And, you know, they felt like that there was enough production zone here to warrant a municipal well. nobody's gonna guarantee you a flow until we drill it, that's the problem, you know?
Yeah.
But,
But just even those average numbers or the guesstimate numbers, whatever numbers that they are that you have, I would just be interested in having those.
okay, well, we'll try to get him to make a crack at what the production will
Okay.
be. That's one of the things we asked him to do. I
Okay.
just know there'll be that disclaimer, so.
Well, right, and I
Yeah.
had, but then we're not going in blind, you
It
know what
looked
I
pretty
mean? I'm
good.
like,
I mean, you know, there was 140 feet of solid producing aquifer, and then there was another 100 feet of somewhat marginal, and so then you just balance the cost of the screen versus what you might get out of it. But with 140 feet of the right diameter well, maybe an 18 inch, I mean, we'd certainly pull in a lot of water that way. So they were actually fairly confident that we'd get some good production out of it. I mean, you know, a good high desert well in this part of the country is 500 gallons a minute. A great high desert well is 1,500. So, you know, I'm thinking, you know, we can count on probably 800 out of this. And if we get more, that'd be great. At 800, we'd have to test pump it at 12. And, you know, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibilities, given the Highline was test pumped at 1,800. I wish I could give you a better answer, but I think
okay,
we will know a little bit
so
more
around
once,
800.
yeah, once we get it on paper and I put the screws to him a little bit to stick his neck out.
Get the numbers to us. Okay.
That's a tough.
Okay. Good
Thanks, that
discussion.
information helps though,
That's,
thank
was
you.
that only 2 or?
That was 3.
Okay, great.
The cost, the
I'm just
impact
an
fees.
engineer, I can't count.
Thank
Gallons
you.
per minute.
Greg, really do appreciate a tremendous amount of effort and time, and it would be nearly as beneficial to us if there hadn't been the assistance of Royce and the town, trying to generate all of this information and trying to pull this together, so.
Hopefully I didn't drone on too long, appreciate your.
No, I appreciate it very much, so if you need to, you're welcome to stay, but if you need to,
I'll probably
yeah.
clock out if that's okay.
Thank you.
I didn't see anything on the agenda that needed me.
Yeah.
Just check on my desk before you leave.
I'll do that. And then let's get together.
Yeah,
I
for
want, I
sure.
want to see if there's a disconnect here and what that does in our surpluses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Might find us some more time. Okay, great.
Maybe we get together, we go over those numbers too, and you can put together, and we'll just.
Why don't we do that? I'll go ahead and flesh it out a little bit more and then we can get together.
Yeah, like I said, like, at least started plugging that into the rate calculation.
Okay, great. Thanks again.
Thank you, Greg. Discussion of stop sign at intersection of Goose Nest Drive, Golden Eagle Way, formerly Elk Ridge Drive. There have been recommendations by residents, staff a little bit has looked at this as a possibility. My personal feeling is I don't want to jump just because it looks like it's a good idea. If we remove the east-west sign on Goose Nest there at the former Elk Ridge Drive, people are not stopping and haven't been for a long time anyway. But on the other hand, it is still a fair amount of traffic, but it is mostly going east-west. And it is not a great deal is going north-south on, and we'll start referring to that street as Golden Eagle Way, make sure we understand that.
So instead of Goose Nest?
No, Golden Eagle Way Drive.
Then what is what?
Elkridge Drive.
Always what that's.
Where the road starts bending through the subdivision, that is now Elk Ridge Drive. From that point on, where people are jumping over the curb, which we don't want them to do.
It's
Yeah.
boulders and
I just see it all day, so.
And that's Golden Eagle Way from that point on. And we're addressing this issue of, we've got to stop them from going across where that curb will be shot.
I think we put some boulders in there, that'll.
So,
Landscape that.
Let's-
I was
If you
thinking-
landscape that.
I was thinking of some nails.
This is
I
not
was
grass.
going to say that, or the tire ripper thing.
You know, when you drive up to that and you stop that stop sign and look down the hill and you're like, that road doesn't go through. Why am I stopping here?
It's true.
It really kind of is like a,
We're going to, Mikhail has indicated that there's gonna be some striping on that corner to assist a few more people to understand. Most people already know, but it will just clarify and make it a little better to make sure that they know they have to come in and still intersect and stop at Elkridge Drive.
If there was a way that we could disable people jumping the curb and not make it permanent, so that if in an emergency we needed to open it up, I think that that might be something we ought to take a look at. Because now with that going through there with the islands, it's narrow enough, if we have an accident in there, your only way out of town is to go down and go out on Goose Nest or go clear out and around,
Well, they can still
With
come
that.
up to the,
depending on where it's at.
well, yeah, but within that first 200 feet, you've
Yeah.
got.
Yeah, you can
go
turn
back
and go
over to
right.
Golden Eagle
Yeah,
Bend.
right. But I
Yeah, I understand. And
I'm just trying to keep the options, because last winter when we had the accident just down below the canal, I mean, we ended up shutting down the road between Salem Canal and 112, and that was, you get a lot of people that aren't familiar with getting in and out of town. That was kind of a tricky deal, so.
So where do we wanna put the stop sign?
Well, it's already there.
It's
We're
already
talking
there.
about is
talking about taking it
Oh,
out.
taking it
taking
out.
out
taking
the goose
And
nest.
we don't wanna take it out. You don't want it?
I'm just saying, let's not rush.
Okay.
Just because someone wants it, is it the right decision? Maybe it is.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to it.
I mean, I'm just like Ty, I've driven and I'm like, what the, why is this here?
Well, the thing that,
Geniuses.
that I would think that we need to consider is, what does the Uniform Traffic Code state? And what would somebody that's not from around here reasonably expect to be there,
And they would
or
be
not
gone.
be there?
They
Okay,
would be gone.
and I think that's kind of the key. The other piece tied to this, when you come into the roundabout, there's a white 15-mile-an-hour speed limit sign. The way that I understand traffic laws, that means it's 15 miles an hour till I get to another sign that says otherwise, which means it's now 15 miles an hour from when I enter the roundabout till I get all the way up here to Park Drive.
What?
Technically, that's
Technically, I mean, and the way that I understand
They
it
need
is
to
if
put a new
that's,
speed limit sign right after the roundabout.
the way that I understand that is if we put a yellow one, then it's a cautionary, like when they have the sign that says slow down 45 miles an hour, 'cause you're going around a bend
Yeah.
type of thing, and it immediately resets once you get through that without having to put
Yeah, it's not-
additional signs.
It's
The last thing I wanna have is a lot of
yellow
signs.
instead of white.
If there's a white, right.
Just breaking out,
Okay.
okay?
I-
What would your recommendation be?
Well, and the thing is, thinking about it, you know, I've gone over that signage multiple times with Shay, our city planner, Craig, Scott Peterson, and, I mean, according to the MUTCD standards, they all agreed on those white signs. I'm not saying we can't change them to a yellow, I'm just saying signs have been bought according to the standard.
So we could still put in new signs to
To get it back to like the
Because
30
it's-
mile an hour zone.
It's rebooted going east and west. When you get, and you're headed
Yeah.
out on Goose Nest, I mean, it's like right there, and it's
Well,
going
then
north
headed
and going
north,
the other way, but
but
coming this way
southbound
it isn't.
it's not. I
And
agree.
when I saw Deputy Road Center the other day, I thought, oh my word, how am I gonna keep it down under 15?
You did.
So,
say-
and we do have some room to play there, but not much with the Browns property being, you know, with their asphalt coming out to the edge of oil there, you know, we have to see what we could do, but we could definitely get a 30 mile an hour zone, you know, sign put
What
back
would you
in.
say about those two signs on Goose Nest?
As far as the two signs on Goose Nest, honestly, people are running them as, I mean, we see it all day, every time we pull out of the shop. People are running those two stop signs, east and west both.
Slow them down.
It slows, some of them it slows down, you know, they all roll through it and it's all, you know, I do think it does reduce speed through that neighborhood, heading west on Goose Nest. So I think there is a benefit to it, but how much, I don't know. They do run them a lot. It's getting to the point where, with as little traffic is down there, I mean, there's still quite a bit, but obviously not as much as what was there. You've got a lot going through.
There's still a lot to go over to Payson.
Yep, there's still a lot of people to go through that. And so, you know, there's a lot of people all day long going through that road. But it's also where it's not one of the main roads, it's not being as, you know, patrolled as heavy as it has been in the past either.
I mean, you got a lot of traffic going down across Park here. Why don't we have stop signs along Park to slow people down, right?
Yeah.
We stop them when they enter Park.
Stop signs are not intended to be traffic
Right.
control.
No.
They
If you
can
want-
force stops.
To improve
Not
traffic
speed
flow,
control.
I'd say remove the stop signs, and I don't think you're gonna change what people's habits are anyway.
I think those that are gonna speed.
100 feet from there, they're doing 40 anyway.
Either way.
Yeah, and that's what I say, it slows them down a little bit to roll through that stop sign, then they're right back to it as soon as they get on, you know, I mean, they're gonna do what they're gonna do regardless, so.
Okay. Probably a preference for everyone would be to remove it.
I just think it makes sense.
Yeah.
Just as well.
Tags don't wanna get a ticket for rolling them anymore, okay?
And it's not a decision necessarily that the council has to make.
No,
it
It's
isn't.
we can make, and we'll take the advisement and go from there. Now, it's only 6:15, wait a minute.
7 years, yeah.
Truth and taxation hearing discussion. We will take a 3-minute break and then get back. Okay, we got everybody
Plus, we have a lot
back.
less on the agenda, but that's
Really?
usually.
Let's start again.
City council, like, where's some cups? Do we have any cups? Always have to go.
Don't mind me, just go ahead.
We have a very significant decision to prepare for, and we will try and utilize this time to, again, look at data, general information to see what the concerns are, what potentials are, and then we'll, because on August 2nd, we will have the Truth and Taxation meeting. We will not make a decision on that night. It will not be on the agenda to do that. It will be on the 9th of August to make the final determination as to what that decision is going to be.
So a week later.
Yes, just 1 week later.
Okay.
Ty, why don't you just walk us through this?
Well, okay, I'll be happy to do that. And as I do, keep in mind that you will know things before they come up in the presentation. In fact, you'll think I'm going haywire at certain points, I'm sure. That is intentional, so just kind of put your, I'm just a citizen, I don't know all the details about how budgets work. And then if I am wrong, just let me know. And then also, there's going to be just your input to where I need to make some changes and what you would like to see in addition to what's already here.
Okay.
Okay, so, can I do this? I just threw this together. I guess there's going to be a welcome. That'll be you.
Yes.
Right? Council minute? Brittany?
Okay,
I mean, is that,
yep, that's fine.
you mentioned, I just threw it in here, it's
Yeah,
open for discussion, right?
So what's
I will
the
do
council
that.
minute that was what?
I'm happy to do that. That's fine.
Okay, do you want to?
Describe what that
Do you want me
You
to-
want to
yeah,
let us
okay.
know what
I
that's
have
going
no
to be
idea what
before
that
is.
So Tricia,
before we have truth and taxation shock?
Yeah, no, it's our opening statement.
Oh.
It's, I don't know how else to say it, like, besides like what I do for a jury, right? Kind of telling them, here's why we're having this meeting. Here's what we want you to do. And then kind of like, because I want them to know, we don't have a decision made. We're not decided yet. We want to present to you the facts, so it's open and honest. And then pay attention to the facts. If you have a question about something, write down the line item number. If you have a suggestion, you know what I mean? So we can have, so when this, after the presentation's over and it's open for public comments, we can have a good discussion, or we can have some positive feedback on things that we can do to try and make the meeting productive.
and
but-
make an appropriate decision.
Yeah, and I haven't drafted the whole thing yet because obviously it depends on Ty's presentation, but it'll be to that effect, right? Of welcome, right? Thanks for coming. Well, the mayor's going to do that. But then just let them know that we haven't made a decision and then what we want them to do as they pay attention to the presentation.
I think it would be good during that process, whether it's you or the mayor, communicate to them that we're not making that decision that night, that it will be a week later. And the reason that we have done that is intentional, so that we can allow for as much input from the public as possible, and while we go through
I'm going
this
out of
process.
town that weekend.
Yeah, so they know, right? They know as we start the meeting, because some of them are gonna come really mad and just wanna like yell and scream at us of, how can you do this to us? You've already made up your minds. And I want them to know, no, we haven't. But we wanna be open and fair with you, that you know exactly what's going on in the city. So we can make the best decision possible for the city as a whole. Because, right, there's some that say, raise my property taxes, and there's others that say, put in commercial development, and there's others that say, cut services. So when we look at the city as a whole, how do we balance that, and what do we do?
We get annexed into Payson. All right. Keep it.
And then they raise our taxes for us.
Been a recommendation anytime.
I'm sure
The whole city into Payson?
Yeah. All right, so I figured that.
Is that okay, by the way?
Yes.
Yeah, and I'll put a page in here that just basically, just kind of puts it up on the screen and leaves it there and gives you the opportunity
You
to
just
talk.
keep
No
Dell,
bullet
Nelson, and
items
I
or
out of it, and we're fine. That's fine. We're in the background.
All right. I felt important that it's going to be important for them to learn a little bit about city funds.
Absolutely.
Right? So I went through this a number of times, and I hope I've got something that people can grasp. We'll see. And I'm like, this is your fund confusion, water funds, sewer, blah, 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 all these funds, right? I'll give a better presentation to blah, 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 so. Okay?
Should we maybe change the colors to red and white too? Just the Utah fan in me wanted to know. No? Okay, sorry.
So I thought, well, let's talk about some of these bigger funds, and I'm like, so I put this Venn diagram up, and you know, we're dealing with the general fund, and that's a big fund, and a storm drain fund, and a water fund, and a sewer fund, and a lot of people look at it in the city that these funds kind of just all mix together and share in some way some common money, and others money is like in this, you know, in its own fund, and I want to get the point across that that's just not true. Okay, the funds are individual funds. Right? They operate within themselves. And in fact, I want them to understand that 3 of those are what we call enterprise funds. Right? And there are strict state statutes that deal with how those enterprise funds work. Right? Then I wanted to talk about how those funds get funded, because we're all familiar with it, and it's that thing right there. If you look at those line items, water, sewer, and storm drain, they match up to exactly what those are right there, and that comes from your city bill. Those are funded from your city bill, right? Not property taxes, but city bill. Then I said, well, let's talk about the general fund now, right? Because really, tonight's meeting is about the general fund. It's not about those 3 enterprise funds that we just talked about. It's about the general fund. So you need to pay special attention to the general fund. So how do we fund the general fund? Well, in some cases, like for garbage and recycle, it's actually on your city bill. A little bit of that big pot, big money, big circle there is actually funded from your
Are you
city
sure you
bill.
want your address up there?
Yeah, right. Yeah, egg me here.
Just throwing that out.
So we have that component, but then there's this great piece of information too, right? And this represents actually more than just your property taxes, because we also have franchise taxes and we have sales taxes that are in here as well. But tonight, we're really talking about property tax. And I was going to put a little kind of a highlight that says, and it's really this line of your property tax, right?
Yes.
It's just that one line of your property tax. So that also goes into the general fund, right? So now you can kind of get an idea of how these different funds are funded. Then,
And I think that's important that it's just the one line of property tax, because
Yes.
people
Yes,
think
I do
property
too.
tax increase, oh my gosh, my tax bill's $1,300 a year, and you're gonna double that?
right,
But
It's just the one line
It's
item.
just
So
the
I feel like I need to make a real
Very, very important.
Yeah,
important comment there, right?
maybe show all, when you look at that property.
If you list it, but then highlight.
Well,
the
I'll
city
probably
line or
circle
something.
it or something and say, that's the one we're talking about, that
And you're
line
showing
up
your
there.
bill, huh?
You can go get it
Talk
online
about,
right now.
talk about transparency.
Nelson mailed
Tricia, I've got
Nelson mailed them out.
I knew he emailed them out to us, I was like, what?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So what about these fund transfers? We can do it. There is a way to do fund transfers, particularly between these enterprise funds and the general fund, but it requires a public hearing in order for that to happen. We have to have it, and I thought maybe I'd tell them about that little notice we sent out a few months ago that said we're going to transfer
Yeah.
$2,500 from the water fund to the general fund. Make a comment there, right? We had to have a public hearing on that. You got the notice. We had a public hearing because we needed to let you know that that was going to happen. That's required by state statute as well. We don't just get to go in there and start transferring money around without public input.
Now, the percentage that we can move is limited to, so 6
There
or
is a small
16,
amount.
I mean, it's a small percentage, I can't remember what it is though.
Right. But I'm probably not going to say that detail. There's a lot left out of here.
There'll be a lot of detail we'll leave out just.
But I think that we
General
need to
education.
know that so that when they come up and say, well, just transfer it from here to take
Yeah,
care of
that's
the property
true.
taxes, we need to be able to tell them, well, this is.
All we can do is this percentage.
So to this point, you think I've got the citizens
Yes, you do.
along? I mean, are we?
You're doing very well.
This is great.
Okay.
I mean, this is probably the best presentation I've seen.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I'm not losing our residents at this
I
point.
think you could probably sell it, and we could raise money for the city. Go ahead.
There you go, yeah, right.
We'll put a line item in for your
So
return.
then I want to talk about that general fund. That's really what we're here for. It's that thing right there, right? So let's talk about that. Inside the general fund, we have some reserved funds that we kind of set apart for specific things, right? Parks and roads, primarily the two, right? They kind of look like an enterprise fund, but they're not an enterprise fund. There's more latitude for us to move money between them, and we don't have to have a public hearing, but we do have to go through the town council and city council to make that, any money adjustments there. So what's the rest of that greenish circle? Well, that funds all things like your public safety, our insurance, our utility bills, all of the different things, our salaries, benefits, whatever, right? That all comes out of that remaining pot
Can you
there.
add fire on there?
Well, he's got
I
public safety.
got
Oh,
public safety.
there you
So
go.
that's
Okay.
police, fire, and EMS.
Right. So all those things have to be funded from, and there's a hundred of these things, right? And so I said, if you take a closer look and just scratching the
Police and
surface,
fire.
we have legislative. That's the council kind of thing. There's not a lot there, but we have to account for council salaries and things like that, right? There is a little bit there. As administrative, we've got our salaries, our office expenses, our insurance, all the town planner at the end. We can't run a city without all this stuff. There's no way to do it. Roads and parks and recreation and those kinds of things, right? So I just wanted to kind of get them an idea that what we're talking about in the general fund. I want to stress, there's nothing in here about water. There's nothing in here about sewer, right? Those are enterprise funds, and that's not what we're talking about tonight. I want to get it through the brain that tonight's not about those things because they'd have plenty to say, and rightfully so. So I'm just going to summary. This is another way to look at it. If you take the City Department of Water, it's what we call an enterprise fund paid by the city bill, sewer bill, storm drain. Those are all enterprise funds like we talked. And the stuff in red, that's what's about tonight, and it all comes from our taxes. Maybe I can take this slide out here. Maybe I'm beating the horse to death.
Oh, no, I think this is good.
Right?
It is excellent.
If somebody comes in
It's a
later in
review.
the presentation,
I wanted a review. I wanted to say.
Right, but that's what I'm saying, it's a good to review, see it again.
Right. So now let's look at the general fund, and it's going to be a tale of two budgets tonight. Okay?
That's good material.
But keep one thing in mind, expenses have to equal revenue. We have to balance the equation. So we add additional services, we add additional equipment, we do additional maintenance, we've got to have additional revenue to balance it out. We can't have an unbalanced equation, right? So let's talk about the tale of two budgets. Budget A, I'll probably do a little animation here, not bring budget B in until I talk to budget A, otherwise our eyes will shift right to budget B, because, you know what I mean? I just want to just let people know that, like Brittany would say, probably in the opening statement, or at least refer to it a little bit, infer, that this is really a status quo budget. This is basically based on our 2016 budget, same amount of property taxes. We kind of just keep the same show going that we have going right now. All funded with existing tax rate. But budget B we created, as a council we created, because we realized that in addition to what we have in budget A, we think that there's some critical issues that need to be addressed in our city. Right? And when we went through the budgeting process, we identified those, and we want to talk about those tonight. But with those additional critical resource concerns comes a funding source, and really the only tool we have to fund those additional projects or whatever will be a tax rate increase. That's really what it boils down to. Didn't say that we could put line items on the city bill and detail them to death, but I don't want to get. I could kill them with too much information.
Yeah, I don't want to get out into the weeds.
Right. So let's talk about this budget A that we talk about. That's the status quo. That would be a no property tax increase. Here's what the budget looks like if I break it down into 4 giant categories. If you take the general administration, then this is where I'm going to really have a problem. Not with the residents, but with me. Our budget we're looking at right now is $717,000. If you compare that to what we budgeted in fiscal year 16 last year, that's down $9,700. Okay? We took a little bit out of salaries and a few couple places, right? We dropped that down just a little bit. If I compare that to what we actually spent, that's a 28% increase of what we actually spent, based on the budget that I have. That's well, I don't know what you're going to say to the residents at that point in time.
Okay, so Ty, I think, can I just say something?
And I want to understand something right here. I got to take a pause and talk something over with Royce and you guys.
Okay, so budget versus the 16 budget versus the 16 actual budget. I think we need to explain what each one is, so the residents don't get lost, because they're going to go actual. Well, I agree. If the 16 budget was $97.50 less, but it was actually $158,000 more, what, or less, up?
Probably split this slide.
I mean, do you know what I mean? I think they're going to get confused, so I think
I'm confused a little.
No, totally.
So I think we just need to define before we go into the numbers and stuff of exactly what that means.
Yeah, that's okay. This is not a clear slide. I understand that. I wrote this about 8 times. Right?
No, and this is great.
And it's
I just
still
was
not
trying
right. It's hard to understand.
We're getting there though.
But let me tell you what my issue is.
Okay.
And help me out here. And public safety, I did that for all 3 of those, right? In 2016, our net change in position was $1,030,000.
We saved $1,030,000?
270 was in impact fees, and there's another chunk that needs to be taken out of that. So
impact fees we won't want to consider.
Don't want to consider.
They're not in the general
So
fund.
now I'm down to let's say 750.
Okay.
Right? Based on what we actually spent. Why a property tax increase? Why are we spending the money we collected from the residents last year, this year?
That's a good question.
Now, we know some of it's tied to roads, because there really wasn't road maintenance done.
Yeah, no,
That's part of it.
Grant, I can justify some of it.
No, but I mean, that's...
You can justify...
That's the elephant in the room.
This is the elephant in the room for me.
No, if we're collecting it and not spending it, that's the question. Why are we not spending it?
That's what I worry about, is on that right-hand column.
Right.
Look, we're asking, like in road maintenance, for 240% increase over what we spent in 16.
So we budgeted $239, or our 2016, our new budget, we increased it by 17,000, right? So we're looking at 256. But
We
even though we
budgeted-
budgeted,
This year, we budgeted 239.
okay, so
But
what's-
option B budget is the 256 figure.
But,
Okay, wait,
no,
but if you look at this, we spent, right?
239 minus 168.
what?
Yeah, we spent a little more there, but we're asked, if you look at the number and add
We
up the
spent
road maintenance that
70,000.
we actually spent, we didn't spend much last year in roads.
We spent like 70,000.
Yeah.
We budgeted 239 and we spent 70,000. So
That's
we
correct.
have
Wait, why does it-
168,000 to carry over.
This is,
Okay, this isn't making sense to me. I thought it was, but no, it's not. I'm like, really, is anyone else confused?
So we only increased.
don't, yeah, I figured
we
this would
only-
be very confusing. I left this slide, I didn't know where to go with it.
So we only increased our 2000, our budget for 2016-17 by 17,000, right,
Oh,
on the roads?
our
So we went
sep-
from 239 and our new, the budget B would be 256.
So is this,
Is that correct?
No, yes, okay, so
Right.
what this is saying is
It's not
this
on
year's
there.
budget was 239. That is $17,000 more than last year's budgeted amount.
Okay, last year's
Okay.
budgeted amount.
But it's $168,000 more than we spent. That's what that shows.
And that's one of my concerns. We've not done road maintenance for years.
No.
okay,
The actual was up to what point?
That was,
The actual, was that only through May?
no, I don't think so.
okay, so
Is
this,
this through June?
I think that was through June. I would like to get
Okay,
these
so
numbers
the
from you to
middle
make sure I have the
column
but,
right.
okay, the
Yeah,
first
I
column is
right
the budget
number.
for
Budget A.
2015, oh,
I'm
budget
hoping
A.
that there's a whole bunch of money.
We just need one person talking at a time. Make sure that's what we do.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm just trying to figure it out. Brittany was trying to help me figure out.
Okay, go
So,
ahead.
category, right, okay.
So the budget is
So
budget
this should say
A.
budget A. No?
Nope.
I, see,
That's
this
the
is why I'm so
Yeah,
confused.
sorry, it is, yes.
It is,
that's
it's
correct.
budget A.
Budget A.
Okay, so then for this coming year, the one we're doing now? Okay, so then,
That's last year's budget.
so we didn't spend 9,000?
No,
No,
so
that's-
we, general administration for our new budget is $9,750 less than last
Than
year.
last and last year.
We
Public
took
safety,
that much out?
Yes.
For the budget this year?
yes.
So maybe,
And our public safety went up by 13,000,
Yes.
is $13,000 more this year than it was last year.
Than we budgeted last year.
okay,
Yes.
but then what's this right here?
This
That's-
is how much we actually spent. So we budgeted $717,850 for general administration. We only spent like 560,000.
Like 60,000.
Yeah. So we had $158,000 that we budgeted for general administration that carried over from last year.
That we didn't use?
They just went to our general savings because we didn't use it.
So can we rename categories so
Royce,
that
can
I
you-
can understand what they are?
Is there a way for you to pull that so I get an accurate, I worry that I
I think
haven't,
that's where some of the issue is.
I would like to know.
Because I don't think you would have had year-end stuff, so.
What was our net position change, do you know?
Well, because it just ended June 30, the end of June, right?
I can get that for you, so you plug in
The actual numbers.
I gotta know.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta have
'Cause
correct
How would
numbers.
you feel going into the public meeting and saying, well,
it's about that.
yeah, we didn't spend $158,000 of what we're asking for this year. We didn't spend last year what we were asking, not even what we're asking for.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a big problem.
I think it's a big
Okay,
problem.
so,
Now, some's okay. I would expect some to be
Carried over.
carried over,
So we have a general safety
but
fund in
not
case there's an
$750,000,
emergency.
not twice what our property taxes are. That makes sense? I really got stuck here.
No.
yes, I
that's-
just,
So
I
I'll
feel
unstick
that-
and we'll move on and we'll have a happy presentation.
well, I feel like the categories aren't gonna make sense to a lot of, if they're like me, which I'm dumb, so I'm,
You are not.
Okay, so don't get caught up on,
I almost think it'd be easier for me if you said, here's the budget.
Like current budget,
Yes, I
Current
know,
budget,
I know.
yes, and then put that
Instead of
number.
and then
comparing
put
it.
last year's budget.
I know, instead of comparing. That's why I say, this is gonna get split apart, because I need to have what this year's budget A is, what last year's budget is, and the difference.
And it's fine if you have this, but I just think you need to rename the categories at the top.
Well, and to me, it would be more helpful if you took off, you said this year's budget is 709, you know what I mean, or not, whatever, I can't even do math.
717, 850.
Minus 970, that's the actual for this year, right? Like, that actual number would be more helpful to me to see, oh, that's what you're doing, not just minus what?
No, I understand.
Does that make
Do you
sense?
Do you think I should be comparing it against last year's budget or last year's actuals? Is the 26 budgeted amount relevant?
So I think,
26, what did I say? Did I say 26?
Yes, because if you just do actual,
Yeah,
then
we're
like the road
15,
maintenance
16,
that's been
16,
kicked down the road for
17
how long? You know what I mean? Don't you think that people are gonna be like, what?
15, 16.
Why do you need so much? We haven't spent that much. I don't know. I think they're both pertinent.
Well, I look at the roads, and that one's an easy, I mean, like I said, that's an easy one. But when I look at administration, and we were 158,000 less than what we budgeted, and we're budgeting
More? No, less.
we're less by, but it's still a significant.
700.
I'd want to know, where on earth you can take $150,000, where are you plugging it?
Yeah.
What's that money going to? Because
150.
I would want to know where that money's going before you even talk about giving me an increase.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, that would be
Me too.
Right, because there's an extra 150,000 supposedly there.
Yeah.
So where's it being spent?
or,
Like, why did
or
they-
is
why-
where is it being
if-
saved?
Or where's it being saved? Yeah.
And what is it being saved for?
And maybe we should have in there too,
Royce?
how much we currently
Let's
have
let's
saved.
give Royce a chance to see if he can help us ferret out.
Well, and I think it
some of
comes down again, when's the numbers come in, because fire department didn't come out to June, 2 different payrolls in June, other expenditures that might be
Offset that?
drastically take
I
that
hope
number
so.
down.
Oh,
And then
okay.
see, even in July, and that, we get things that accrue back because there was, the invoices come in. So there's even, if I was to give you the number today, it's gonna change because other invoices come in July that need to go back to last year.
Okay.
So, I think that's gonna be a lot of that number.
Can I ask the question, some of that administrative, would that go back to any of our outsourced individuals such as Aqua?
Well, they are gonna take some of that away too.
Because some of that is monies that we've received, but we've also had to expend it back. It is really a pass-through. We just need to make, I'm just wondering about that. I want to make sure that it's properly presented like everyone else.
That's a good example, because I don't even have Aqua's June bills yet.
Okay. So that's gonna go down a lot, you're saying?
It depends when he has his number.
I hope it.
And fire departments, we did their payroll in June this year, so it depends, and then
Take it down 2,000 for your payroll?
Because some of that general administration really did come out of salaries. And I'm like, we're like 100K or something. I mean, we didn't cut, we're a lot closer to that.
Yeah, general administration, as far as salaries and wages of staff, is nowhere near 717,000. That covers a very, very wide spectrum.
That's the catch-all after you take out parks, road
Then-
maintenance, and public safety, it's everything else.
Would it be helpful in your other thing, a few slides back, to put in stuff like that? Because I don't want them going to say, well, how much is the mayor making? I think maybe if you put in the engineer, and do you know what I'm saying? Like, maybe have a little more information on that.
Well, general administration is separate from salaries and benefits. I mean, that's general administration.
Well, under the budget, it's a one big long category, and that's included, and that's the breakdown I did.
Okay.
Right, I just
I don't know, I just don't want them coming in and
So,
saying.
Ty, the other thing that I think may be beneficial to have, and maybe you've got it later on, is how much do we actually have in savings as a city? And what is healthy to have?
It's true. Although that changes, but over
The
average.
state recommends that we have a minimum of 6%. in savings, or is it more than that? No more than, there's an upper limit.
There's a lower
There's like a
limit.
6 and then like 16.
But it would maybe be good to have those limits and show where we're at in that.
If I can get them, I'll throw a slide in here. What my intentions are, by the way, with this slide, is to remove one of the columns completely.
What?
I really just want, because I hope that the budget and the actual are so close that I just want to say, here's our budget this year, and this is what it was last year.
Yeah, if they're close, then
That makes more sense.
Right?
Yeah, it would
I
make
left
more
it
sense.
yucky, messy like this because I needed to have a discussion.
What about in that general administration, have available at least, if people are wanting, tell me what the breakdown is. You're talking.
Go to the state website.
Yeah. 1,000, but.
Go to the state website. Now, I don't want, okay, so we got stuck here, but I plan on this being just a blip in time. We're going to go right over it because it's going to be close enough to see that our budgets are between now and budget day and the last year. I just wanted to give them a sense of where we're at, of what kind of numbers we're talking, right? I expect it to be more like the 9,000, and we're a little over on this one, and a little, you know what I mean? And it's all going to kind of come out in the wash.
And we all know roads definitely had that margin.
Then we do, and I can talk to that one's an easy one.
That's an easy one.
Right? That's an easy one. But pretend we didn't get stuck, and let's move on. We got stuck bad.
Yeah.
No, we got stuck appropriately.
Yeah.
Well, we need to have this discussion. This is part of what,
Yeah.
this is our preparation.
So then I said, because I don't want to get deep, but I thought, let's talk about some notable items in the budget, and you'll see why I do this. I can talk about the fact that we replaced a vehicle, right? And the general fund took a quarter of that, of the cost to do that, right? Remember, we've got other enterprise funds and things that have to fund part of that, and we share the use and those kind of things. Talk about the road maintenance and the street rebuild, and I'm not even sure what that, I got a question about that, but I won't get stuck there either. Playground, and these things, and I could talk kind of line item by line item, right? Say, these are all notable items that are in the budget, and there's tons of line items that I'm not going to go over, but I pulled a few out. But more importantly, and this is where we start discussing what's not funded in Budget A, right? And this is the list of items that we recognize we should probably address that we haven't addressed in Budget A, in the current budget. And this is the reason we're here today. This is what Brittany was talking about. This is the slide that drove us here. Because we feel like some of these things need to be addressed. In order to do it, we have to talk about the budget. At this point in time, I thought, let me take you on a virtual tour of Elk Ridge, and I'll have the slideshow. And we'll show the bobtail bed, and we'll show the dugway, and we'll show the tennis court, and we'll show where the equipment's just sitting out in the weather, and we'll show the salt shed. You know what I mean? I'll just kind of take a short. Does that sound okay? I mean, is that?
Yeah, I like that idea.
Right? I actually have another way of doing it where I could click on like tennis court and bring a photo up and bring a photo, but that gets pretty clunky. I just thought I'd go through and then I'll go back to this and say, there you have it, right? And then I'll bring up, well, this is Budget B, this is where we attempted to face these critical concerns head on. And here's what we added into the Budget B that we felt like we'd like to fund. And they'd already seen the picture of the dugway. Let's talk about the dugway stabilization, right? That's $1 million project. We feel like if we don't start putting some money in for this project, we won't even be able to apply for grants if they come available. Because we don't even have the money to begin the project. Some point in time, this has to become addressed. Even if we bonded for it in the future, it would be well for us to have a significant amount of funding in acquiring that bond, right? Talk about the Salem Hills widening for the trails, right? That's a safety issue. We need to improve that. No, we're not about trying to make it handle more traffic, but we need to improve the safety there, right? Schuler Park lights. And if somebody wants to help me talk about some of these things, that'd be great, because I don't know if I can talk about everything, but I can certainly try.
Just have them out there. That's excellent.
You can help
What do you
kind
want help with? They would just
of go
sign it
through
up.
some of those with me, maybe, right? Maybe we can, you know.
I'll make cookies.
And here's there's a few more funding items. We looked at an additional bobtail, and we just, we're at 2. If we lost that one, you're gonna wait 8 hours to get your street plowed if you can get them plowed. It's a redundancy thing. Think about how fun it was with the well, right? I don't want to say that, but.
Too soon, too soon.
We think that having that third bobtail is important, number one, to improve our service level improvement, but for redundancy.
Well, and our other ones are getting older.
Right. Well, then I said we have depreciation on 2 other bobcats that we have to deal with, because one has about 4 years remaining on it, we count, and an 8-year. And we've got to start putting money aside. These are depreciation items that we have not really captured in the past.
So Ty, so budget B funded items, where it says item like additional bobtail, would you put in there like in brackets like 150,000?
I could.
Total, so they know like,
how much is
they're
this?
only projecting 10,000 a year, but it's going to cost 150,000 for it.
I thought I put that in somewhere. Okay,
maybe you do
I'll put it in. That's a good idea.
But just so they don't know, oh, it's 10 grand. Why are we going to bond over that?
Yeah, why do we have this meeting?
Exactly. I agree. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably good. Maybe you want a second column that says
total cost.
Annual replacement
Did
component
you have
and
that?
the total.
You had that in the last one though, because on the Dugway, right?
No. I did. I actually put the estimated cost.
Okay.
Put it in the comments.
Okay.
Put it in.
But it may be good to have, we've got.
And then I wanted to also say we had additional items that we just couldn't go any further. We were feeling very concerned that we're already increasing the budget. We want to be sensitive to this. We understand, so we have a Part maintenance vehicle that we'd like to have gotten. We just don't feel like we can go there. And frankly, these road projects, they're huge dollars.
Yeah.
Right? Some of these are $1 million projects or $300,000 projects, and we didn't even attempt to really dig into those in this budget. And if you want us to increase the budget more, we have places to put the money according to the capital facilities. These are all capital facilities bound driven projects, right? Identified there. So here we are tonight, and this is kind of what we're trying to work on, and this is kind of where I don't know where do I end it here, and I just thought we really want you, and you need to be specific and concise and remain on topic, and like Brittany said, we gotta, if you want your comments to mean a lot, be specific and get good ideas. If you don't, then talk to us about the water. But tonight's not about water.
Well,
I don't know if I should say that.
I think you should say how much with all of the budget B, what exactly.
I will. I'll put.
You'll have the numbers, and it'll be this much increase on your bill. Like
I didn't know whether to do. Should I?
Don't do that?
No. So I could do it in presentation.
Okay.
Or I could do it in spreadsheet form. This is an ugly spreadsheet. This is an eye chart. Don't go here. I would have basically a line item for every one of those items, put it up on the screen so they could see what we're talking about, and they could address line number 21, because it looked like more like this, right? Sorry, I don't know if I can get it to go up.
So that's what I was going to say. I think we need to either have hard copies available for them, and maybe it'd be good to have hard copies and a chart up at top that they could see. Here's where all the money would go. Exactly where. This increase here's exactly where all the dollars would go.
With just the items we're talking about, and they could see it. And it would say, here's how much it is, and here's how much, like you'll see over there.
Yeah, the one we put together.
Like this one right there, the $75,000 for the Dugway, that requires a 22% increase in your tax to fund that. Right? And here's a 1%er.
Yeah, I think that kind of detail is good for them to see.
Is that where I leave it? And say, put that up there, and these are the items we're talking about?
And we'll give you 10 minutes to review this and take a break.
I would say, let's let them digest. Most people are going to have a hard time digesting everything we've got. There will be those who want to dig deep, and we make that available for them. But I think if you start putting both of these in here, it's going to confuse.
It'll confuse, I mean, because I look at this 75,000 on the Dugway, and I'm thinking, doggone, let's just buy the lots that are right there. Let's just condemn the property, buy it, and just let it slump out. And it's cheaper than retaining it. I mean, honestly, I mean, you know, I mean, that's a little radical, but.
It's Royce.
Let's just condemn it.
Without even knowing whose it is, but I mean, you know,
Nelson
75,000, $1 million, you know, I mean, hey, I mean, the reality of it is, it'd probably be cheaper.
Here's what I think is gonna happen too, is I think you're gonna get a lot of, well, we were doing fine before all these new residents moved in, and now that they've moved in, our property taxes need to go up.
And there will be some of that. Because
There's gonna be a lot, but then I think it's good to show Dugway and say, wait, some of this, it's everybody. We're a city at this point. We need to stop because of them, and you know what I'm saying? Because if we start getting into the nitty gritty, we can find both sides where it's gonna cost more. Because there is some validity to that.
Well, and you know what the thing is, as a city, as we've grown, we, you know, when I lived up here growing up, we plowed the roads at like 2, 3 a.m. because we borrowed Salem's snowplow. We didn't have our own snowplow. We borrowed another city's. And they just were gracious and let us borrow it. You know what I mean?
And how many years did we plow without even touching the road?
Yeah,
We
lifting
kept the plows
blades
off the
up.
road, so we didn't wear the wear bar down.
And I mean, this is just comes, as the city grows bigger, there's more, you know, we can't go borrow a snowplow anymore. We need to have our own. And so there's just some things that come with growth of a city, and the growth is gonna happen, it's just, we need to make sure it happens
So maybe I should just put this like in a hard copy, and we can hand it out.
If someone comes
The
in
line
and asks for
items.
it.
That's what I would recommend.
Yeah.
So they have something they can talk to.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, one of the other things that isn't addressed in here at all is, you know, you hear people say, well, we want more parks, we want the civic center, we want.
Well, and we can put that in and cross it out, and like, we didn't address that.
The reality of it is.
We should.
I think we should too.
I
All
mean,
those items that we
those are
talked about.
things that.
Frankly, my brain had burned.
I'm not
Remember
surprised.
them.
Yeah,
But
this is great.
the reality of it is, they need to know that there's a real cost associated with this. I mean, you could break it down probably what it costs per acre for us to add additional park space based on what it costs to maintain it and water it and provide the services and provide improvements and, I mean,
And we're still not at the point that we have the parks to the point that.
where the residents are happy with what we've got.
We're a long ways from.
They're never happy.
So they're happy about the new swings.
Yeah,
Mayor,
they
I think
are.
I should,
Those
about
wings.
right here, probably, is just turn it back over to you,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
I think you take it from here, we'll
You
have
take
hard
one for the
copies.
team.
So should we
You'll set the
say,
expectations kind of thing, what we'd like to really benefit us tonight is your comments on these line items and turn it over,
One
right?
thing that I really think needs to happen is that, let's assume worst case scenario, we do 117% tax rate increase and put somebody's house up there without names, it's a $250,000 value house, their tax rate would be this much, divide that by your 12 months. Here's how much additional
Yeah, that's a good idea.
for property tax. We're not going to affect NEVO, we're not going to affect any of the other line items
Just
on
an
your
average.
city bill. But for your home, Elk Ridge City will increase your monthly, if you have a house at this rate, it's going to increase your monthly this much.
Just a chart, you're saying.
Just a simple chart.
So if like mine's 280 or something like that,
So 200, 250.
so I could put on there, here's what it is before, here's what it'd be after, and also show what the total bill would be, because the total bill, your tax bill increase wouldn't be 100%.
No.
It would
That's
be
what he's saying.
12.
Yeah.
And show a picture of the roof.
Yeah, the total increase, even though we're saying 115% increase for Elk Ridge City, but that 115% is X% of the total bill.
would we want to say if we did it, it would be $260,000 to the residents? I mean, to the city? Like, if we increased, I mean, would we even want to go there?
Revenue.
As the revenue, it would increase our revenue by $260,000. Or, I mean, or whatever it is. I
I'm
don't know.
probably gonna put that on that hard hard copy, because I
Okay.
just add up the numbers,
Yeah.
right? I'll just add up the numbers and say,
And we
this much
understand
added
that
up to
that's-
105%.
And that's based on current population. We're not trying to project this onto new growth because we can't be certain of new growth. And we know that new growth is going to be greater than, it'll bring in more than that, but that's not the way budgets can work in a municipality. Just can't.
Do you think it would be helpful to like, this might sound really dumb, to pass out like comment cards or things they could write down, and then as they're going, you can write down, we've given you paper, write down your concerns, and then, what's the lady's name that is the planning commission? Oh gosh.
Brienne?
Huh?
Brienne?
No.
No, Jen.
Stacy, how she said it, if it's already been said before, don't stand up and say it again. So that way you can look at your thing and be like, oh, they've said that, I don't need, oh, that's been, you know what I'm saying? You remember how she said that? Because I think that cuts down a lot on,
If we had paper on every chair coming in so they could take notes, but I think after we finish our presentation, we maybe need to say we're gonna have a 5-minute break, so you can look at the paper, you
We're
can
bringing out
gather your
boxing
thoughts and your
ring.
comments.
That's when we'd pass it out, not
Yeah,
before.
not before,
Not
that's when
before?
we pass it out, and then just say, we're gonna give 5 minutes to gather your thoughts and comments, and then we will start the public comment timers, like, so people can think about it without just like
and
rambling.
sign up to
Yeah, I was
comments.
just gonna say that. We need to have a sign-up list, and they get this much time, and I'll hold my tablet up with the timer, and you get,
Yeah.
and we'll get,
Tablet, let's get that big one the church has, the timer for the running.
well, something like that. You get what I'm saying, though.
Royce,
They
you'll turn the
know.
mic
Get
off.
the air horn off the fire.
Yes, Jim.
I've got one in my garage.
I get a lot of comments, we gotta raise taxes because of growth. Well, you can throw back on the line item, look at the Dugway. Dugway's 22%. If we didn't have the growth, it might be 44%.
Thank you.
Those are fixed things that the city's gonna have, the bobtail.
And we're going to share it by a larger number.
Yeah, that's
It's
another,
actually reducing the cost.
that's the other side of that coin, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, I appreciate you say that, because, I mean, you've seen on Facebook, like, how most of us feel down there, like, especially at that water meeting, like, when everyone's like, a moratorium, no more new people, and everyone starts clapping, and I'm like, I'm not clapping because I'm part of the new people. How does it make you feel? Do you know what I mean? Like, it makes us feel like, oh, you don't want us here at
Well,
all.
the mayor did handle that
You-
superbly.
He what?
He handled that so good.
Yeah, you did. But I mean, I'm just saying, I think it's good to have things like that, so you can say, there are positives to the growth. And I appreciate that you always bring that up, and that you do support that, but
You don't want to hear
the
my
backing.
Abbott's egg story about growth?
About,
Okay. Next. Any other things that you want Ty to address in this presentation?
You know, I know one of the things that's gonna come up, that comes up every time. You're raising my taxes to cover these. When those go away, are you gonna lower my taxes? I know.
No, all those of you crossed out.
Well, no, but I mean, it's, the reality of it is,
And-
I mean, when you talk about, for example, the Dugway, okay? There's a 1-point-something million figure attached to that. We got a property over here that in a few years will be paid off. We're gonna all of a sudden have this infusion of additional cash.
Yes.
Or at that point in time, we gonna,
That's what
and
we
would
do.
we be willing to, at that point in time, reassess, reevaluate, and if need be, make an adjustment?
I think this group would say yes,
I-
but the problem we've got is.
But we need to communicate that to them so
Yes.
that.
but we
so
won't
they
be
know.
there to,
So, I
This group
mean,
changes.
I
Well,
think
some of us will be
exactly.
here when that.
I think it would be good to
many
reassess, but
years?
the thing is, we can also bring up, there's other projects that aren't on here. Goose Nest is $1 million project.
it's true.
So when the Dugway's done, the money that's going towards the Dugway will then go towards Goose Nest.
Some of the
I-
programs that we had to line through,
Yes,
but
exactly.
they
I mean,
still
but
need.
They still need to be done, they're not in the budget. So when one of these things comes up, right, when we get our bobtail, well, there's sure gonna be some other piece of equipment.
That's why property
That
taxes
needs-
And
never
I'm
go
trying to
down.
get that fireworks show for the city celebration, right?
I want it for 3 years.
All we gotta do is,
3 years.
all we gotta do is hold our celebration after the 4th and 24th and have the fire department go out and confiscate all the illegal ones, and then we got it covered.
There we go, it's paid for.
Just trying to light it.
We really do need need to make sure that we get the numbers on that one slide.
Yeah.
Make sure that's
Yeah,
good
help me,
clarification,
help me.
understanding. I think, I mean, it jumps out so ominous. There has got to be some answers there because we spent too many hours going through this to suggest that hasn't been covered
Yeah,
really significantly.
yeah, that was,
And I suspect it's because I don't have late enough numbers, so.
So, okay.
Okay, I'll try to put that together. If you guys have things that you'd like me to put in there that we have not addressed, just shoot them to me in an email, will you please, like the Civic Center, or, I can't remember what you told me now. Send them to me in an email,
Okay.
yeah? But just, I don't want to blow up this presentation, but I think it's good to see that there are other things that we just
No,
don't
but
address.
well, we do.
Yeah.
We have the Civic Center, we have the improvement of the city property, we have the drainage pond that the
Did you
residents
even
want
put
us to turn into a nice grassy park.
What about the other fire engine? Was that in there, or we're just,
No.
we're bonding for that?
That's not there.
It's not in there either.
But see, that's.
And the new city office.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be the Civic Center,
Yeah,
city
that's
office.
true.
And the fire engine ought to go in there
Which should be on the list.
with the concept of, without it, your fire, insurance rating will climb, that kind of a thing.
Oh, yeah.
Just brief
I
comments.
wish I could have captured 1/10 of what Seth went over when he talked about all that,
Yeah.
We can have them come.
Jim?
On that, as you line these things out, just put a dollar amount by them.
I will, Jim, that's a good idea.
People can see these things are still, we're still gonna look at them.
That's a good idea, and I thought too, on the comparison of the tax rate comparison, I think I'm gonna also say, and just to keep things in perspective, my city bill is about $50 a month, and my internet bill is this much, and my cable bill is this much, and this is the smallest bill I pay.
I think it's a very valid thing to do.
How much is yours?
Prioritize, and, we live in
And I
a
think I
social
get-
world, and I get that.
$50 worth out of the city. They plow my road, they take care of things, right?
I think that's a very
So
good.
Ty, I think I've got
I
the
got
list.
people I can yell at, if I'm
Right,
mad.
but the reality of it is, you're spending the least on what is probably your second most valuable asset besides yourself.
What's that?
Wait, so we haven't even started the regular
You're
meeting?
spending the least amount of money
It'll go
on your
quick.
second most valuable asset.
Yeah.
I mean, you really are, 'cause
All
number
nighter.
one's you, but
Okay.
your house is your next
We're
biggest.
going to end our city council
That was
session,
really good, Ty.
work session.
So Ty, I think I have that spreadsheet too that I'll send. I'll highlight the stuff.
Can you turn that off, Jim? Can you reach up there and, sorry, Mayor. for
No, you're
interrupting.
just fine, you're fine. Opening remarks, we've been doing kind of a rotation system. Where did we get to last time? Who gave the prayer last time, do you remember? I did.
You did.
You did.
I did, so
I'll be happy to.
if you do that, and then I'll leave in the pledge.
One of these days, my phone's gonna go up right in the middle of prayer. And it's gonna be the Jetsons, because that's what my wife.
To ring from heaven.
Our kind Heavenly Father, we come before Thee this time with the gratitude in our hearts to live in such a wonderful city and be around such wonderful people. Thou bless us with Thy Spirit, Heavenly Father, tonight, that we might be able to make wise decisions as a council, that we'll be able to take into consideration all the needs of the residents, and yet also keep in mind the duties and laws in which we're bound by. We pray for those who are sick or afflicted, and our minds are thoughtful of them, and ask that Thy blessing be upon them as well. In particular, may we be able to exercise good judgment with Thy Spirit, as we pray in Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We need to change our agenda time.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we amend our regular council meeting start time to 8:26 PM.
Second.
I'll second.
Second by Brittany. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Amendment to the city fee schedule. Any other discussion so we can move on that? If not, I'd like a motion for someone to make a motion to amend the city fee schedule as proposed with plan check fee deposit for other than homes at $100 and landscaping deposit equal to $2,500 refunded after completion and inspection.
I will make a motion that we amend the city fee schedule as so stated.
Second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
I don't know that we've accounted for the cost of inspecting when it's done. Because if they're gonna go out and inspect to release the $2,500, clearly we're not doing that for free. There's a cost associated with it.
Is that code enforcement, or would that be?
No, the code enforcement, the landscaping deposit,
I mean,
it is probably gonna have to be a code enforcement issue.
So it'd be wages?
So we're saying 2,400 is refunded? I mean,
well, no, I don't know that it costs $100.
I know, but whatever we do.
Whatever it is, but yeah. I mean, that's-
$24.75, whatever it is.
Yeah. That's just making sure we cover the accounting for everything. I mean, that's why we're adjusting the other to 100.
It has been motioned and passed.
Need a re-motion?
To make that change?
I'm sorry, I didn't think about it till just now.
Yeah, no kidding.
Honestly, I didn't.
Can we have a mulligan?
That's right. We could re-motion though.
Would you like, what's that? You can.
Yeah, you
like to
So how
re-motion
much
for-
do we need to make non-refundable to cover the inspection costs?
Well, there's a lot of staff tracking on this as well.
Or-
If we
or-
want to just consider it in wages and in code enforcement and staff.
Well, that's what I'm saying, if you make $100, I don't know,
Or is that
Or
part of
if we-
25?
if we just say less
So-
enforcement fee, and,
Or does $2,500 actually cover it? I mean, because it's totally refunded, we're not collecting anything for that, and there would be administrative costs, so if it's totally refunded.
That's what I'm saying.
That's where my rub
If
is.
you landscaping deposit of 2,500 and 2,400 is refunded after completion and inspection, then we save $100 to cover our administrative and
What do you
inspection
think, Royce?
costs.
Does that sound like a reasonable?
You think it costs that much?
It depends.
Who knows on who complies?
Yeah.
It's gonna be tracking, it's gonna be
Some are gonna be
Three years.
We talked about it the other day, and this is gonna be some tracking.
It's gonna be a lot
Because it
of
goes out a
tracking.
period of potential of 3 years.
depending on.
And what about homeownership changes, then what?
Yeah,
I know.
that's where $100, 150 might even be a little more.
2,250.
So you'd rather,
In some cases, it's going to be done within the 3 to 4 months.
I know.
And we're going to still retain $150 or $100, and other times it's going, I think in the long run, we're probably going to get most of it will be covered within the first year or so, probably. Most people are doing something.
Do we have to set the exact figure, or if we said less administrative fee, and then we see what that
I
administrative
don't
fee
think we have, the problem with doing that is there's one more administrative effort to try and just track how many.
Okay,
I think it's better if we just make a certain portion non-refundable.
I'd say $100.
And wasn't this only if they're not gonna have the landscaping done before the occupancy permit?
Yes.
Yes.
So it's not everybody gets this, where does that say that in there?
Let's say that again?
Well, wait, so will the builder have to eat this every
Well,
single
they
time?
have to deposit that when they take out
But
their
then we
building
refund it
permit.
to the actual
Yeah, then it's refunded to them. Yeah, it is part of, everybody will.
Because the
will
homeowner
pay
finances it with the building.
It will be collected.
Because I thought it was
Part.
only if you didn't have,
No.
didn't have your landscaping done before your occupancy permit.
That's the way I understood it too.
No, what they indicated was that.
It goes into every
When
loan.
we were talking about when that's collected and how that's collected, it just,
It's, when the building permit's issued, it's collected then from the
yeah.
builder.
But then it's refunded to them.
And it's
Yeah. It's
refunded.
refunded.
Or to the builder if he, before they move in?
Only
Oh,
if the,
no.
When they complete it.
only if the
that's
builder has
only
not
with-
sold it.
Okay, so that's how it's in their loan, they'd get 25.
Current owner.
Okay,
It becomes a current owner.
Okay.
So
So
let's
what amount do we think we need to cover?
try
our administrative
$100.
$100?
So
$100.
change this here to say
Okay,
2,400 refundable.
after completion and inspection.
relative to, and note administrative costs.
Or not
Oh, I was-
front, back,
Down somewhere in one of these other inspection category, we ought to just take and say landscaping deposit inspection or something and put it down under number 5 and have it listed there so that it 1 + 1 = 2, if that makes sense.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Make
so we need to
motion.
make a motion to
Yes.
amend the amendment to the city fee schedule.
Yeah, right.
That includes the landscaping deposit of $2,500 with $2,400 refunded after completion and inspection, and the other additional changes to inspection costs. Do I need to specify those?
No. Administrative costs. We call it administrative costs.
Administrative costs.
Rather than inspection.
Okay.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Done and done.
Truth in taxation. I don't think you can really have a decision per se. What we're going to need to do, though, is come back. See, we only have no more meetings before the truth in taxation hearing.
Thought we were gonna.
We had talked about doing that. Is that something you'd still want to try to accomplish?
And do a
Would you
dry
all
run
pull
through?
out? Would you
I
all?
think we should.
I think we need to with the final numbers in there. So
Would you all pull out a calendar, please? And it will have to be a public meeting. So it'll have to be scheduled and noticed.
26?
Do it on the,
I can't the 26th.
You can't? 19?
That's true.
Ty, what do you need? What do you need from us?
Also, I would recommend the later in the month because a lot of invoices still need to be,
Okay.
so we're gonna be redoing it again.
Could we look somewhere,
We're up to 27th.
27th is a Wednesday evening?
That way it won't conflict with planning commission.
Can we do it later in the evening?
If we can do it
on
later.
Wednesday evening, the 27th. Should we start at 8 o'clock? Is there a problem with 8 o'clock, Wednesday evening, the 27th?
I'll try to come. My husband just has bishopric stuff and my babysitter's eating women, so maybe.
I'll just bring their kids.
And
What
you
about
could- you could-
Thursday?
Oh, they're so
There's
good.
not a,
And you could come a little late if you needed to.
Yeah, if you have women's
there's
is
only
done,
one
she'll be
planning
back.
meeting
so
this
it's not-
Thursday,
That's
so
what I'm
we
at.
could do it.
Yeah.
I'm out of town the 28th.
Oh.
Let's do the 27th,
Okay.
8 PM, public meeting. Advertised as such, but it will be, as far as I can see right now, exclusively this budget meeting. Okay? Next. I don't think I really have much. I have created about 6 different thank you letters to individuals, to entities for their assistance during the water issues, Salem City, to Payson, to Woodland Hills, to RB Construction, to the state presidency, and Whittison's on the well. So, just so you're aware, we're sending those out. Probably the most prominent one where we want to make sure that they understand that our appreciation is that of Salem City. And within that letter, just so you know, I have offered that if they felt like they would like to recoup a little bit of that water from our system for their construction use, that offer is out there. I don't know that they will take it, but I feel
That's
like
good.
that would
That's
be
good to make
an
the offer.
honest offer
Yeah.
back. Most of the other cities did not contribute that much in a physical sense, so. I guess there is a couple of other things. We have 2 new employees to hire. Brianne's last day will be this Thursday. She took a job with the Highline Canal Company, and increased rate of $15 to $15 an hour, more hours per week. Benefits, so she took that as an option for her. Skylar told us this was going to happen quite some time ago, possibly, and with her husband's new job, he does some traveling, and she wanted to be more available to her family in those circumstances. We've had a total of probably 10 interviews, 7 to 10 interviews, somewhere in there. The first ones did not produce as much, probably potential employees as those Monday, and we have a second interview scheduled for tomorrow morning at 8:30 to kind of make a decision between two. So we're down to, we've already offered a position to one, and we'll make a decision tomorrow on that other one. So.
Are these residents out of town? Some of them.
Two of them, all three of them are residents that are in the running right now. And there were several that were some very excellent, very excellent. It got tough. It got tough yesterday to try and ferret this one down. What we thought about doing was hiring 4 or 5 and just changing the budget a little bit.
You're on your own.
Okay, I don't think I have anything else. I'm going to ask Royce or Melanie, either of you. McKay, would you like to take a moment?
Yeah. Last couple of weeks I've had quite a bit going on. You've seen, well, most of you have seen the new swings down at the Phase 2 part of the Elk Ridge Meadows Park. Those in, we're working on the picnic tables as well. Hopefully have those done this week. A lot of little projects, fine-tuning the park, sprinkler systems, that kind of stuff, moving sprinkler heads, a few things like that. A lot of road work as well. Fixing sinkholes, potholes, that kind of stuff. Some of them having to be cut out, total replacement on some of these areas. Also, something, it's kind of a pain to go do, but diagnosing water leaks on people's properties. With the water restrictions and the well issues, a lot of people have come forward about, water leaks that they have had. So we've spent a lot of time. In fact, we've already done 3 this week. Diagnosed 3 sprinkler line leaks on individual properties. So we're going to spend a lot of time on that. Just kind of fine-tuning the water system, a little bit more, and looking for ways that we can reduce the water consumption. So. A lot going on, little projects here and there, a lot of signage through the roundabout that we put in, We do have a schedule to be striped. I'm hoping it's done tonight. If not, it should be done tomorrow, but have the Golden Eagle Way restriped so it'll make the turn there. So the white line will delineate the curve, and the yellow, orange lines, center lines will delineate the curve a little there too. So hopefully we can kind of fine-tune that, tone that down a little bit there. So, but a lot going on. So,
I just have one point. I had a resident contact me that lives down off of Bear Hollow, near one of the trails, and the sprinklers on one side of the trail come on and for a normal amount of time, but on the other side of the trail they come on, and almost as quickly as they come on, they turn off. Okay. So the water isn't getting to the grass and to the trees in that immediate area.
Probably a plugged sprinkler or something. Because it's on the same system.
Yeah. But they wanted me to bring that up, just because they're concerned, They fought pretty hard to get it to where it is. They really hate to see it.
Yeah, it could just be something as small as an issue of the timer, lost its time on that. That's happened down there before.
It's happened on my yard.
So I'll look into that. So
I just give you a heads up.
It's on the trail going from Bear Hollow to like Quail Run, or
the one that connects.
Let me see here.
New section.
Yeah, I just barely got this too. So
go ahead, Dale. While he's looking.
How's that Elk Ridge Meadows Park coming back? Is it,
It's struggling a little bit. It looks worse from the road and probably from Trish's house. It looks out against the field of dead. But as you walk it, the grass is soft and there's green coming up through. So we are starting to make a comeback on that. The trees have got new sprouts coming out, and so we're making a comeback on that.
The new trees that were planted?
Yeah, the new trees that were planted. They are starting to produce fresh sprouts. So.
Let's see, we've got the, did we end up getting our pot, our kettle, for the?
Yep, we did.
So
we
that's
got that in the
He's talking about
shop there.
For the
Crack seal machine. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep, we've got that, so.
You're doing some of that next month or so. I'll get with you, but we probably would be good to go ahead and start working on getting a couple of bids for that section of trail that we're going to do from Escalante up to Alexander that we have budgeted for this next year. We're into next year now.
Yeah.
It's good. We'll get a couple of bids on that.
I am having technological difficulties. It is down off of Bear Hollow, so
Okay.
it's got to be right in that general vicinity. And the way that they described it to me, I think you could probably go down there, you'd see. They said
Yeah.
one side's green enough, the other side isn't. The side that's not green enough is the side that's having the issue.
Okay.
So we'll take a look at it tomorrow. Okay.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
You guys are working well, working hard. Appreciate it very much. And Melanie and Jan and Royce are covering a lot of territory over these next few days. They have already, and they're going to do a lot of training that's going to have to take place again. We're hoping that we can get someone who will stick around. We ask the questions, but we can't guarantee. So anyway, anyone? Yes, Dale.
One question that brought up before, and I'm not sure where we need to go with it. We've discussed the possibility of looking at doing a pavilion. Getting a bid or someone on a pavilion down there, but I'm not sure whether we should have asked Craig when he was here if this needs to be a separate line item in that in our capital planning to be able to start to use the impact fees and the other fund we've got to look at doing that. Or
My understanding is in there, it's more general, but it is there, it has the percentages.
Okay,
So it just needs to.
so it would be considered in there, and then it would just be a matter of deciding what we'd like to see down there and getting 2 or 3 bids on it. But I'd like to kind of move ahead on that, or I always got that.
But that would be amendment to the budget.
Yeah, but.
Go ahead, Brittany.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there's a way, or I don't know if we've discussed this, that we can compensate our employees that worked an extraordinary amount of extra time during the well breakage, to comp
We
them
bought him
extra
pizza.
daytime. To comp them,
She's
you
talking
know what I
about
mean?
herself when she worked.
No.
A gift card to Nordstrom for $500 is fine, right, Brittany?
You know what I mean? Like, give them like some extra time off, or I don't know if we, because to show them our appreciation of, I don't know how many hours everybody worked, but you guys were working
Sleepless nights.
All night.
Sleepless nights.
all night and all
hard
day.
days at the office. I mean.
That's, I know,
the office
okay, you were
staff
doing
was
like,
treated, I don't know if you can ever make amends for that.
It's true.
So.
yeah. Well, no, and I mean, you know
But
what I mean,
yeah.
but it's a way for us to show our appreciation to you guys that worked.
Sure.
Because
Well,
there's, not every office staff worked overtime, but Quite a few of you did.
The only way.
And
I
not
think
just
we
a couple
could-
hours overtime,
the
but
only-
a lot of
The only
overtime.
way I think we could reasonably do that is to move into the fall and maybe allow just some comp
holiday.
time. I mean, he doesn't, because his salary comp time kind of doesn't exist, so we just.
Take a little more time on
You
it.
can't pick hours.
Yeah. Joyce,
Take a long
recommendation.
What, I know, but that's what I'm saying, if we just say like, you know what, okay, like 2 extra vacation days that you can have, or I don't know, something just,
One option that I
I-
have seen in others, and if I have the time to do it, I will come and, I can't answer all the questions, but I would certainly come down and take your place and answer phones. And give them the day off, and I would cover it for them. And,
I won't even offer that because I'll never done.
Well, my personal feeling on this is an administrative function, and this falls on the mayor, and we'll let the mayor make the judgment call, because that's his call.
As long as I'm not answering phones, you're good.
So I'm saying,
So, I mean,
you
I've
couldn't
been,
pay me to take those.
I have my own roasting going on Facebook, so yeah, I know. Wow. But I was just going to comment. Today, Mayor Larson brought to my attention that they're looking at running a water line that would be potentially within a quarter mile of our Loafer Canyon well. And they would be willing to discuss, and they would like to consider the idea of us maybe working that so that if our well goes down, they can pump their water, and if theirs goes down, we can pump and share and do some things. That they're willing to have that discussion.
I don't think it's a bad discussion. Santa Quinn and Genola do that.
And I feel like
We would have to
from
share
a neighborly
costs
approach, sure.
between the two for the line. Have to amend the budget.
Sure, but I mean, that's something right now, they're looking at the cost of running that and putting some of that together, so I thought I'd give you a heads up.
Within a quarter.
I would expect that they'll be reaching out to the city as well.
He'd have to come down with that hill.
Well, that's the plan, yeah, they're talking about coming all the way down to the bottom, and I know we've had the discussion about the property, but, you know, because we haven't made a decision one way or the other, they may annex it in and provide all the services, and it'll be there.
From the county.
Yep.
And that's what.
That's a possibility, but.
Right now, for us to, and I need to get back, I guess, from Mayor Lawrenson, but for our city to try and provide service out there.
Well, he knows it's pretty clear that we're not going to provide service to them for that. So if they decide to do it, so be it.
Well, I suppose that Don Macon could get some kind of an escalator, elevator to move things up.
I don't know, well, he's doing it right now with the dirt, moving it back up the hill.
Yes.
every day.
Okay.
Every person that comes to my house.
Anything else? Okay.
All right.
Thank you all.
Awesome. Have some dinner.
Well, Ty, this is the best that I think has the presentation.
Still, it's still
Has been